Oh boy.
I think we're live.
Are we
We
live?
are live?
You guys hear the garbage truck in the background of my audio?
Yeah. Does it sing a song?
No, it's backing up. I think it'll be out soon.
It sounds like it's almost like a song, but no, yeah.
Or the old telephone?
Yeah. All right. Are you ready?
Ready?
Sure.
Yeah, sure. They don't know who's in the stream, right?
No. Joe, Paul is here.
Yeah, that's probably obvious.
That's it.
Oh.
Look at that.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey, everybody.
It is awesome.
It is, right?
Crazy to be back here, man.
Yeah.
Wild.
So the
Wow.
comments on the right, Ben, they're like, I don't know, 15 seconds behind or something. Because, like, the video has to get into the screens and then they have to type.
Got it. Yeah, I see. That's cool, man. This is wild. This is a great setup. This is so cool. I've never used StreamYard before.
Yeah, we use it for the conference, and then it's been wild. It does everything. You just plug in people, they come in, they can share their screen, and we have full control, right? Like we can, if we say like, oh, you want the layout to be different, like.
Oh, look at
I did a
that.
bunch
So
of buttons.
fancy. That's cool. That's very cool.
Yeah.
Man, I'm amazed what you guys have done. You guys have really just gone crazy. Like absolutely bananas. Keeping up with you guys. Let's blame somebody here. Let's blame you guys for putting out too much content. Then I have to figure it out, and then I never have a chance to make a video because it just keeps getting better. And then I'm like, why would I make a video now? It's too easy.
Just make a video about small parts.
Yeah, I guess that's it. Man, you guys are crazy. It is my great honor to be sitting here with you guys. You are legends, and I don't feel like I belong in this circle, but I'm very honored you guys asked me to be here. So thank you.
Yeah. Well, glad to have you. Yeah. So welcome everybody to yet another release party. Frank just pressed the button a couple of hours ago, so 2021.5 has been released, which is, thankfully to our date versioning, the 5th release this year.
It's also already the 5th, right? Like next release will be like we're halfway year.
Right. That is going to be wild.
That's like
Yeah.
Too fast.
too fast, right?
Very too fast. That's horrible.
Yeah, for the people tuning in for the very first time, my name is Paulus. I'm the founder of Home Assistant. There's Frank, and there's Pascal, core developers.
Hi.
And then in that corner is Ben, who he makes YouTube videos. And he was one of the OG YouTube makers for Home Assistant. So he made the first video introducing what is now called Home Assistant, but our operating system. That was like, Ben would make the video and like get everybody on board. And famous multi-sensor and
Oh yeah, man.
Yeah, right. that thing.
Oh yeah.
And for the video.
Yeah.
But it's changed
man.
so much.
Oh,
If you look the video today,
Oh my goodness, it's crazy. Yeah, I
it's
gotta
a different world.
see. I never know. I guess I should just ask people like, what's the right etiquette for making videos on YouTube when stuff changes and evolves? Like, is it better to just delete it, or do you like? You can't really like.
Don't
it's
make
like
a video
it's
about
like
new
please don't
features.
do what I did here. Like I don't know. It's I feel like that's kind of my story. I made something. It's like don't do this, and yeah. But no, it's. I don't know what the right way is. You guys should tell me. People in the comments, if you have a thought, let me know.
I kind of like it that like it gives room for new people to also join the scene, right? It's just not just some old person that just keeps gathering all the views, but instead it's like evolving and people are like, no, now this is the best way, or we can do it even better. We can even.
Oh yeah, it's so cool watching the YouTube community grow. I mean, when I first started, I was like, it felt like I was one of the only people making videos, but now there's so many guys, and those videos are so good. I feel like every time that I've gone to like, oh, I'm going to make a video, it's like somebody's already covered it or done it really well. And, it's amazing. Everybody's so talented. I feel like when I'm like, I don't feel like I have much to contribute, in a lot of the content just because people have already done it. And like the forums are so good now. It's like, I'm going to need my code. Heck, most of the stuff I've done, I've like pulled in from other people. And it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing what this community's done and what it's grown to. And that's crazy.
I can remember the stairs you did, like the LED strips behind the stairs with the Adreno sketch to have the effects in.
Yes.
Like, man,
that is a fun project. You know, it's funny now that we're whatever this is 4 years later. I can tell you that project cost me my front porch. Well,
Really?
not quite. Well, okay. So the bad thing about that is I used those aluminum strips to hold the LEDs. You know, the channels that everybody has. And so I drilled holes through some of my posts and through to like mount those things, and it caused a whole bunch of wood rot. Like absolutely, like rotted out a lot of that rail. And it was kind of a disaster in the end. I was like, whoa, that was not a great idea. So I guess note to people who do that, like consider water. And you know, now it's like those, you know, LED projects, you know, it's changed so much. And you know, WLED is such a good project, and ESPHome. You know, I shudder to think about firing up an Arduino IDE anymore and like coding something. I'm like, I would never. I just gonna like take those projects that work so well. It's crazy. It's so cool now. It's so much easier now than it was back then. Thanks to you guys. I mean,
do you remember, Ben? We had like these light strips in your Christmas tree, and we opened up this public Home Assistant instance around Christmas time with a camera on it, and everybody could log in, and everybody could change the effects, and we could like see it live streamed on YouTube or whatever.
Yes. That was fun. You know, now I'm like, I think back on some of those days, like, would I still do that? Kind of, I would, except it's a little bit scary. You know, now that I have a lot more internet connected devices and stuff, you're like, security. But I mean, things are so, I don't know, things are so easy now. I mean, there's a lot of ways I could do that again. It's amazing. The fact that I think in that instance, I mean, I think I had 100,000 toggles on some of those relays, and just constantly tick for like 7-8 days.
So my main question to you that right now is in my head that I really want to know is, do you still have that party button?
The pointy button. Oh, the party button. Yes. It's funny. I have like 4 of them, and I don't think any of them work right now. It's so funny. Hang on.
Yes, that's the one. Oh my God.
So there's been at least several iterations of it. The one that I think most people, was it this one? It's a lock and you know the toggles on it. This one was cool. This is where it kind of started, but
it's so amazing. He just pulls them out. He just happens.
This is like a shelf of like my lost life behind me. But you know, it started with the ESP8266 in this, which was cool because it was, you know, micro USB and super fast. It worked great. And then, you know, from there I wanted to go to battery powered, and so I spent a lot of time making it battery powered. I embedded some LEDs in this, and actually put an inductive charger in the bottom of it, so it like inductively charges with a battery. And it works, kind of. The inductive charging, for whatever reason, is tough. And then I went to the next button because I wanted to have some aluminum on it. So this is like a real aluminum, nice button on
Oh,
this.
wow.
But as you can tell, it's met a sad fate as I tweak it and stuff. But yeah, the party button's still there.
It's amazing.
You know,
question gets answered. This is awesome.
The real evolution for me in Home Assistant was ESPHome, because that was taking a lot of like the personal projects I was doing, and then you know, before it was fully integrated, it was like very easy, and then once it was integrated, it's like it's the only way I do anything now. I mean, all my blinds, any projects, party buttons. I mean, ESPHome is just like dead easy. I absolutely adore that project.
So you're still doing home automation, right?
Oh yes, very much so. Never stopped, and I think that's probably why I can say I don't make videos, because I like developing stuff too much, and then the time that I do have almost always gets sucked into development somewhere. But I got to stop making excuses and get back to it. I've been playing a lot with the Nextion screens here, to making some touchscreen and see if that's going to focus there.
Nice.
Hello, I got to get my face out of the way. So like trying to do more touchscreen stuff, and you know, controlling stuff around the house with that. But yeah, it's crazy. It's amazing how easy it is, and then just trying to get it more refined and accessible to people.
Well, so we're gonna have a second guest this stream, because we actually have a person who started working full time on ESPHome now at Nabukasa. Nice. So he started last week. Is it last week? 2 weeks ago? No, I think last week. But yeah, so he's Jesse is going to join us. He's one of the ESPHome core devs, and he's now he's going to be he's in New Zealand, so his time schedule is a bit you have to get the kids out of the house. So he will join us in like an hour or something from now.
Cool, that's gonna be awesome.
But yeah, ESPHome is amazing. Like, yeah.
Yes, it's like absolutely the best case scenario for my home setup, just because it's like everything now integrated and it's all in the same place, and I can update stuff remotely. That's been amazing, you know, all over the air, and then I can even do it through the cloud now. So it
As a
spoils
pa-
me.
the
Yeah.
panel is really nice, and you don't need spend so much time to code some things for
Oh,
make
yeah.
it working. You just copy paste from a documentation and it works.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Right.
Every time I see something on like Hackaday where somebody does something with an Arduino, I like cry inside. I'm like, don't do that. No, don't do that. It's like, that's so hard.
Yeah, I think that around ESPHome we can do a lot better in just the marketing side of things. So,
Oh,
I've
yeah.
started like retweeting projects that I see on Twitter from the ESPHome project, for example. But if you go to the ESP8266 or the ESP32 subreddits, people hardly talk about ESPHome, even though
Yeah.
it's the easiest way.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I think it's just because people don't know. So that's where we need some YouTubers.
Yeah.
Doing ESPHome projects.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I think I owe people some videos on blinds and stuff for the last like 3 years. It's all right. Oops.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Oh, look, Jesse's already. He will come online later in a bit.
Cool.
Yeah, awesome. So, hey, should we talk about the release? Should
Let's
we
do
talk
it.
more to Ben? How's the dog?
She's awesome. She's very big. This is her bed behind me. There.
Okay.
So she's not in here with me. She may join me a little bit. I have a light. When this light flashes, it's probably my dog. She'll stand outside the door and whine until I open it. She's great, man. She's awesome. She's like, I remember I have that video and she's like a puppy and I'm holding her, and now she's, you know, whatever she is, 4 years old and 110 pounds, and she's great, man. I love dogs. I also have a kid now, so that's really exciting. So enjoying
congratulations.
that. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, life's been super busy. It's been kind of crazy. Every time I make plans, like something changes and new jobs. You know, it's I think I'm blessed with the curse of really also loving my day job. And you know, it's not something to complain about that I love my day job, but it also, you know, takes a lot of time, and
Yeah.
so you know, it's a lot of the reason why I haven't made more content. It's just time limitations, and then, you know, for me, I think I also probably set the bar a little too high for myself, because, you know, I really want to make content that's engaging and entertaining, and that's sometimes difficult if it's just, you know, sitting down in front of a camera for 10 minutes. It's a skill that I've been trying to develop, so we'll see if I can get back to making some videos soon. You can tell me if I've gotten better at it, but
Well, that's why these live streams.
Sorry.
That's why these live streams are so awesome. Like we prepare a little bit, right? Like I have some demos of new features prepared, but it's just part of the release notes, kind of. And
yeah,
you know, it's 2 hours and then nothing, right? We don't have to write a script. Like we don't even have to
Cut
we
the
just gotta go
videos.
for it. Yeah.
true.
I tried some YouTube back in the day, and it's not like, it's so time consuming, mate. That made me deeply respect what you did. Like that is so time consuming. That is true. But this is kind of nice format too, right? Just talk and see what happens, and we have all the people watching and chatting, so that's kind of nice. And we can sometimes pull in a question as well, so that's nice.
Absolutely.
So it's kind of cool.
I like it, man. It's like a social hour. I can speak with friends and you have a good time,
Sure.
not just working.
I mean, I don't know. I feel work for us is like one big social hour with a little bit of like coding on the side.
That's awesome.
Sometimes,
That's why
yes.
I like my day job too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I would call it a little bit of coding, man. You guys are busy. You guys are always, it's crazy what you guys are just pumping out week to week.
You know, it's wild because like sometimes we ourselves are unable to keep up. Like there's so much, because there's also contributions coming in, and we're like working with those people, and then we're doing our own stuff, and then kind of sometimes it mixes up, and we kind of like do there, and then I know like Klaas is working on the energy stuff, and we put out some tweets, and he had like 100,000 people saw his tweets, and like all these people have been like sending him like ideas, and he's been talking to more people. He got some devices shipped from like some manufacturers, and it's wild.
Crazy.
Yeah.
We're gonna need like a project coordinator soon, just to like coordinate trajectories of projects and stuff.
You know,
time zones is already a thing. Like I wake up in the morning and then Paul has merged I don't know what, and I'm maybe even not noticing it, right? And then 2 days later, you're like, what the hell? Where did this come from? It's just, I don't know. It's just so fast and so quick. It's
Yeah.
It's
Well, yeah,
exciting.
700 PRs, huh? This release on the
Yes.
back end.
Crazy. It's crazy.
just the core, right?
That's
That's
just the core.
just the core. Then we have front end and documentation and supervisor. I don't know, everywhere. Like,
Apps.
Add-ons.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. So, should we talk about the release?
yes,
Do it.
Did anything
Yep.
happen? Let's
Let
see.
me
What's
open the release notes.
what's the first thing we should talk about? Performance?
I don't know.
Or
Shall I
inside?
share the release notes on screen, or do you want to?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Share the screen. I can share a tab now, right? It's
Yeah.
this one. There we go.
Yeah.
Nice.
Picnic is going to be a big one for the Dutch people. It's grocery ordering.
We actually ordered this week with Picnic for the first time just to try it out. So it kind of works, I guess.
Nice.
Yeah.
So let me scroll a bit down to the actual content, right? You want to start at the top, Paulus?
Yeah. Well, I mean, databases. So I think the biggest thing here is that database migrations are running in the background. So it used to be like last release, we had a big migration. You restart Home Assistant, and we have reports of one person who had 25 hours of migration. And during that time, Home Assistant didn't run because it's waiting for the migration to finish. So there were also people having just an hour, but even that is too long, right? So right now, what will happen, it will run the migration in the background. It will queue up. It will not discard any of the events. So once the migration is done, it will start inserting everything as before. There is a max of how many events we're keeping track of. I think, top of my head, either 3,000 or 30,000. So after that, we're going to say, like, we're not going to store more because otherwise we just run out of memory or whatever. Yeah, this has been a great improvement. And then also for SQLite, Nick has been really digging into like how it actually works under the hood, and he realized there was just a lot of writes being done, and so he could like actually it wouldn't just write the database, it also do like a sync, which is where the hard drive will actually write it to disk instead of like keeping it in cache, and it's not good for SD cards. So yeah, that's like fixed now too. So it's like it's amazing. So we should see it's faster, more resilient. Your SD cards, nicer to your SD cards, or any hard drive really. Yeah, it's great.
That's awesome.
What I really like about this is the fact that Home Assistant will be available really quick, right? Even though there's an update. And even if your database is not like a 24-hour or 25-hour upgrade, but even it's like, I don't know, done in 3 or 4 minutes, this will mean that it will still be available 3 to 4 minutes earlier than before. It's always that moment that you hit that button and you're like, is this going well? Why is it not responding yet? Is it not up? Is it doing something? What's going on? And I think that part is now just that's gone. I think that's awesome.
Right.
I think that's
and then people pulling the plug.
That's the death wish.
Sure, it out.
I've done that before. I've never pulled the plug on Home Assistant.
Oh, don't lie.
I think I corrupted the database. Like there was something I did. I forget what I was doing. It was one of my DIY projects, but I kept corrupting the database somehow. I don't know why. I think probably because I was polling something like every I don't know, probably many times a second on one of my multi-sensors. Yes. But I do know how to fix that now. I just delete everything, all the database, and just you guys somehow have magic that fixes it.
So
no, it's no longer necessary.
That is not even needed, indeed. That's already fixed a couple of releases back.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
It will detect corruption and just like copy it to like an old location and just start a new database for you.
Yep. That is amazing.
But I think we need to clean up that a bit. I saw some pictures where it was people, they had 10 or 15 database back, and that filled the storage.
Yeah.
We're
actually, when we talk about sensor data and like hammering the database, we're actually exploring, and this is part of our energy management. So Klaas is doing an internship at Nabukasa, and his focus area is how can we use Home Assistant to gain insight into energy usage and to optimize your energy usage. And of course, this is not only usage, but also production is part of it, right? Solar panels and these kind of things. And we realize that to create such a dashboard and to create this insight, you don't just want to, by default, the database stores every the last 10 days. And that's just not enough for this kind of like insight. You want to compare to last month or last week or maybe last year. And so Eric, who is actually working on to help Klaas achieve this, Eric is looking into statistics. And so how can we better store statistics in our database? This will be a new table, not the current states solution that we have, and it will I think right now the goal is to every hour, but maybe we'll go down to as little as every 5 minutes. We just store what's like the current min, max, sum, and average of the last 5 minutes of like this sensor. And so if you store it for every sensor, then you can have like on a 5-minute basis, you can do hourly, daily, you can easily calculate it, graph it, and we can we can go years back, right? Because if you store once a day a value for one sensor, it's only 365 entries per year, right? So it's like, you can go a lot more aggressive and still not have taken up a lot of space. So I think Eric was doing like tests with like every 10 minutes for 10 years or something. And then it was just 160 megabytes or something. So
amazing. That's cool.
Yeah.
So cool.
And then, because Klaas has been digging in and he's been sharing all his work, and it's like there's so much cool stuff happening around energy management, but it really boils down to like 3 different pieces of people, how they're measuring like their energy, and those are all easily available. And like there's like local solutions with local APIs. There's ESPHome you can be using. I think there was a Shelly one, and like this just all this cool stuff that you can just use to pull this data in. So it's going to be awesome. I think the goal is going to be that we have this dashboard, we have the statistics, and a couple of guides of like, use this hardware, you get this insight. And get solar panels. And then, of course, it will be even cooler because you can actually kind of gamify. Not only can you use less than last week, but can you actually be energy neutral, for example?
Nice. I think gamifying is an important factor around anything you do with in your home with energy, right? So if you're like getting aware of what you're using, then you can start gamifying it by lowering it, and that's essentially good for the environment and for your wallet, of course.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we would need a mascot, like a I don't know, like a happy home that will do like thumbs up when you're doing good, or like be like this, like
no. It's probably a Dutch thing, but no, it's not. It's Telcel like kind of thing. Like that's a homie, right? That's a home as well with thumb and legs.
Oh, maybe yeah.
So Telcel, I don't know, some kind of like television selling thing. Never mind.
Yeah,
true.
So that's database, right?
Yes.
So cool.
Somebody is asking, can I also use MariaDB or MySQL? Yes. You can still use those, and those will benefit from the same things as presented here. So that's for every database.
Yeah, well, every SQL database, right?
Every SQL database that's connected, right?
Yeah.
I have a question. It's kind of more question / thought / oh, that may be my dog outside. Hang on, 1 second.
Hold that thought.
I need that for my dog too. But there's a small bit.
Sorry, that's very rude. So, question / thought. Come in, pups. When it comes to things like sensors and polling frequency, one of the things that I've kind of thought about, or I should say struggle with, is like figuring out what the polling frequency is for a specific like sensor or entity really quickly. I think some of that, I would say where it matters the most is probably ESPHome, because when you're making stuff yourself, you just like, I want to know what the sensor's doing. You have the polling frequency really fast. Is there a way to see that? Like how often a sensor is polling from the front end of Home Assistant right now?
No. So right now, I mean, if you use ESPHome pushes the data, of course, to Home Assistant. So it's actually what you have configured. And so that actually Home Assistant wouldn't even know. But for polling entities, it's actually not there. And we were actually discussing in the beta channel also earlier this week, that it would be nice, especially for like the travel time sensors, to be able to just like disable any automatic update at all, right? Because like you only want to manually update it when you know that you're like at work, you only care about the time to come home, for example. So no, that's not possible right now. But one of the things that we have also been thinking about in like when we talk about statistics is that right now we store every single state change of a sensor inside your database. So if you have a ESPHome device that polls every second, for example, well, there you go, 86,400 state updates per day. But of course, some people have it even faster, like just yeah, exactly. And so it really burns through your database. But if we have statistics, you wouldn't care about that, right? Like if you have statistics, you could actually say, hey, we're not even going to store every state change. And so please hammer us with all your state updates because the core can handle it.
I see. So the thought there is that the state isn't being written to the database as much, and it's like being aggregated in a statistics entity almost, and then it's kind of discarded the state. That's cool. That would change my life, I think.
We have also something in a core which can decide is it an important state change or not, and based on that, we can also in the future filter on it.
That's so cool, because like I feel like as like somebody like always making DIY stuff, what you want to do is like sit down with the screen and you want to mash the button a bunch and you want to watch it like blinking Home Assistant or whatever, right? You don't care about the saving all of that data. So having that like aggregated like in some format and just discarding that would be awesome. Yeah, that would be so cool.
Yeah, because I think that what you're asking is like, can I see the empty interval? Ideally, it shouldn't matter, right? We should build a system that is resilient no matter how much data you throw at it.
Right.
Because otherwise, every user will have to figure out their own like intervals and stuff.
Right.
So what changed a bit from the past is like back in the day, we actually used the database to fetch the state from as soon as Home Assistant started. So the database had value back in the day, but right now we don't use that anymore. So the database is actually just like historical information actually, and that's all. So the value there is less important than it used to be. And for general users, like we all want to have the fastest update times, especially when you're working on something, right? And then you want to see it. But that's something in your mind, right? Because you really do not have to know like how much, I don't know, it's you don't have to know the temperature in your living room every 5 seconds. That's not interesting at all.
But you want to blow on your sensor and watch that value change like that.
Right.
And wait 60 seconds for that.
So you configure that and then you keep it. And that's, I think, is a common mistake, right? So like think about what you store in the database, like include, exclude your entities and decide on like what is a reasonable polling interval if that is a polling kind of sensor.
Well, for now, right?
Yeah, for now at least, but yeah, that's what it is right now, and I think that's one of the most common mistakes, actually.
Yeah. But I mean, if I buy a device, I try to look if that is a pushing device and not a pulling device, because I mean, you cannot pull too fast because at one time you hit the device.
Yeah. So what I've seen, for example, because even when push, you can do these things like wrongly. Like, let's say you make an ESPHome sketch or configuration or YAML. How do we call these things? Actually, I never figured that part out. But let's say you make your ESPHome project and you enter an uptime sensor in there. Some people do that. I've seen a project today that actually has one. Like, that thing will send information every couple of seconds about how long that ESP chip is up. Like, do you really want to know that? Like, I don't know.
Well, we actually
you just don't want to keep it forever.
Yeah. So for uptime, we actually have a solution, right? We have the timestamp sensor class, and and if you set it as a timestamp, you just set it when it's booted, then the UI will actually update every second and make sure that the time is the current time. But so I mean, at the end, we can fix a lot of things, but at the end, if people configure ESPHome incorrectly or whatever device they're programming, we need to survive.
Right.
Yes. I'll see if I can break your code for you when you launch it, because I'm sure I'll have the way.
That's good. Yeah, you want to do it live on stream?
I mean, we can try it. Yeah, I've definitely burned up a lot of SD cards, and then I switched to a NUC with a NVMe drive, and that's helped a lot. I haven't broken anything since that, but
yeah,
it's a lot of writes. That database is humongous.
Yeah, NVMe is great. Like having just an SSD being plugged in, that's awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, it sucks. Like the Raspberry Pi. It's like when you have a Raspberry Pi, you're like, that's it, right?
Yeah.
Have fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, want to go back to the release notes?
Let's do it.
Startup visibility.
Yeah. What the heck is taking so long?
You want to do this one, Frank?
Sure. So, like, even if the database upgrade is fast, right, and Home Assistant is starting up, then you will always see those. If you have Lovelace dashboard, you will probably see some of those like red squares or yellow ones that some entities are not ready yet, and Home Assistant will tell you it's still starting. But why does it take the time it takes to like finish that? At some point, Home Assistant will say in the bottom right, using like the pop-up we call a toaster, it will say, well, Home Assistant finished starting. That's how it was for the last couple of releases. But you never actually knew why it took the time it took. Like, why did it take 4 minutes to fully start up, right? So now it will actually tell you, which is really cool.
That's very awesome.
That's very awesome, right? And during the startup, it will do that in two ways. One is the toaster in the bottom right that says Home Assistant starting will actually now change during the startup on what it is busy with. So in the screenshot you see right here, which I made this afternoon, is during the startup, it shows me that WLED was still starting at that point. And that will change rapidly if everything is going right. But yeah, that will exactly show you which integration it's starting up. And if one is hanging there really long, then that might indicate something.
Yes. This is part of Nick's work. Nick has been really focused on being able to answer why. Like something is slow, something is blocking startup, something is blocking reboot or restart or shutdown. And then why? Why are we waiting? And this is work from it. And then it's awesome because it's, instead of saying Home Assistant sucks, you can now say, well, this integration sucks. And then when you look at like your integration dashboard, you're like, oh, that's a custom integration. I mean, most likely, I hope. But
I have quite optimized system, as in I try to, the stuff I use, I look into what's wrong, right? And that's one of the quirks, I guess, for working on a project. But I had actually to simulate this and actually to get a good screenshot. So what I did, I unplugged, and that actually worked, which amazed me. I unplugged one of the WLED lights here, and it tried to connect until it timed out. So that actually slowed down the startup. And that's something I'd never realized, though, because you, like, Home Assistant will try to connect to the devices you have, right? And if it's not there, then you have to wait for the timer to happen. So that's why WLED is in the screenshot, because, well, that one was on my desk and I unplugged it.
The reason we do that, we connect as part of startup, is because when we finish the startup phase, we enable the automations. And your automations expect your devices to have some state. And so, of course, not all devices will be there, but at least most will be there. So, we try to connect.
That is so cool. Oh my goodness. I'm updating Home Assistant right now, and I'm just watching your toaster messages come through. That is amazing.
So, by the way, guys,
wondered what
it's toast. It's a toast, not a toaster. Toaster is for bread.
I'm sorry, I'm not a front end guy. Toast.
I like toaster. Yeah,
I like toaster more.
Yeah, let's call it that.
It's like a roller coaster of messages in a toast. It's a toaster.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. That's so cool. That's amazing. Yeah, I've always wondered, because I inevitably have stuff unplugged, or like especially if you have Wi-Fi problems. Like I have fought Wi-Fi problems. I don't know, trying to transition to Wi-Fi 6, new routers, Unify, beta firmware. stuff disappears off the network, and then Home Assistant is just like, it's lost, man. It's like, oh my God, what's happening? It's not Home Assistant's fault. It's my 12 LifeX bulbs that are just somewhere in space. And yeah, it's so cool. You can see it.
So the cool thing now is, Ben, that even if you're looking at this, you're now upgrading, right? And you're looking at it. Right. But let's say you press the button, go fetch a cup of coffee, you come back, and it was like, oh shit, now I missed all my roller toaster coaster messages in the bottom right? So there's this, there's a possibility to view them. So in the release notes, I have a screenshot as well. If you go to the information panel in the configuration panel, then you can actually see, even long gone after startup, you can still see how long the startup times were for each integration afterwards.
That is awesome.
Yeah. But we have to say this data is definitely how long it took to set up this integration. But sometimes we see with things like input Boolean that they were actually just waiting to get some time to access the disk because they have to load their configuration that they stored. And so the input Boolean can take 5 seconds, but it actually, it's not really 5 seconds.
Sure.
Yeah, that's something we can probably tweak as well, but something we'll figure out.
There's a lot of stuff happening at the same time, so it's kind of hard to figure out how much time you put to one or the other, probably.
Yeah, it's actually awesome the way the Home Assistant startup works is that certain integrations have dependencies on other integrations, but instead of trying to figure out it ourselves, we just say, set up everything, and then everything will try to set up the other things that they need, and so it will just do as much work as possible until it's done. But yeah, it will also use a lot of CPU.
Yeah.
Very cool.
But it starts pretty fast, so.
Oh yeah, no, for sure.
That's a good point.
I can remember back in the day when wave and then
horrible.
15 minutes was normal, right? Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah, with Z-Wave.
And you had to restart for every freaking change, right? So that was horrible.
You saw in the log, set up this, set up next, set up that one, set up this.
Yeah,
but
you count it and it's okay.
So one of the things I did back in the day better than I do now is look at what I made. Like I still write my automations in YAML because I like that. And then now I write them and I just reload and then I made an error afterwards. Like back in the day, I would check my YAML and make sure I did not make a syntax error and read it again. So like restarting was expensive, right? And now it's just like something went wrong.
Yeah,
it's kind of nice.
When you guys added the check config button back when you had all that, you had to restart every time. That check config button saved a lot of hours for a lot of people because you could check it and you're like, well, at least it's going to compile correctly when you restart.
Well, back then it was even worse because if you had a YAML mistake, Home Assistant wouldn't boot.
Yes, absolutely. You had to fire up some SSH console and Home Assistant restart. Yes.
I mean, that was added only last year, right? We were 6 years old back then, or 7.
That's crazy. Yeah. So cool.
What most people actually don't know, maybe we should just jump into the topic since we're now on it, but because there is a change around this part in this release. Let me find it. It's actually the next topic as well, so that's kind of cool, right? So if you press the restart button, what used to happen back in the day was it will actually just restart, and then you had an error and Home Assistant didn't come up, right? But what most people don't know is you don't have to check your configuration because the restart button actually does that and will prevent it from restarting with a broken configuration, which is kind of cool. The problem, however, that we had is that we did check it, but we did not tell you something was wrong. So you hit that button and nothing happened. And now we're back at Nick's story about telling why something is not working, what is happening, right? So as of this release, if you hit the restart button and it cannot restart, it will tell you why and what's wrong.
Nice. That is awesome. I definitely have hit the restart button and I sit there and I'm like, did it restart? That was fast. And then realized it didn't.
Right. Well, the UX still has to improve a little bit because we're using a toast. So it will pop up, and then within a few seconds, if you didn't finish reading, you're done.
Yes.
But the information is there, so we're gonna improve that soon.
Next evaluation would be for update. Check before it makes the update. That would be nice.
You need to make some automation where when you get a toast, you can set it to blink a light or something in your house. Broadcast it.
Well, in
Hey,
this case,
Home
you actually
Assistant's
could.
broken.
In this case, you actually could, because besides the toast, it will actually leave a persistent notification. So you get like a little bubble on there's a configuration error, and with a link to the live place. So that's kind of nice. So even if you missed the toast, then still there's a reference to why it didn't restart.
That's cool.
By the way, as an intermezzo, last release we launched Home Assistant Analytics, which allows you to opt in to share the Home Assistant version that you use with the developers. You can also opt in to share more information, it's like which integrations that you use. And this information is actually already being used by developers. So this data we will use to see what are the most popular integrations. And so, for example, when Nick was looking at performance and he was looking at like common memory leaks and restart issues, he actually used Home Assistant Analytics to look at the top 35 integrations and to make sure that they work correctly. So if you, so we really appreciate it if people turn on analytics, and I'm really happy that already 37,000 people of you have done it. So if you haven't done it yet, open Home Assistant, go to configuration, go to general, scroll all the way down, and hit those checkboxes.
Can you show the link in a button?
Yeah, we had a banner last time, huh? Oh, yeah. So if you want to see all the analytics are open. The code that generates analytics is also open source. And so, yeah, if you go to analytics.homeassistant.io, you will be able to see the aggregated statistics, which is really cool. And then we've already been like using this information also in the documentation. So when you open an integration, it will tell you how many percentage of the users of Home Assistant will actually have that integration set up, which is also very motivating for developers. So, for example, if you look at ESPHome, you can see that 19.5% of the Home Assistant users that have enabled analytics use ESPHome. That is pretty damn high.
Yeah, this is an exceptional one.
I think the reason this is happening is not that we're misreporting, but I think analytics right now is opt-in, and you actually have to go to your configuration screen. We haven't like prompted people to opt in yet. So it means that if you just hit the update button and continue with your life, you don't know about it. You have to read the release notes or watch your streams, listen to the Home Assistant podcast, or somehow have learned about it. So I think not everybody knows it yet, and that's why ESPHome is so popular, combined with the fact that, as we discussed before, ESPHome is freaking awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, Pascal's back.
Yeah.
So cool.
All right.
Yeah.
So what has been fixed right here, because you talked about the top 35, those top 35 have been checked on how Home Assistant shuts down. So besides starting up fast, there was also looked at how it shuts down, because part of a restart is not only starting up fast, but also shutting down fast. So the top 35 integrations have been checked to make sure they are not blocking the shutdown, and some changes have been made there. So that would make a faster restart happen, not just because we're fast in starting up, but also in shutting down. So that's kind of nice.
So like a common mistake that Nick found was we would continue polling for new data even as we were already shutting down.
Shutting down, yeah.
And then we would wait for those tasks to finish as well. So that was all unnecessary.
Yep.
Yeah.
Ooh, Paulus.
Oh yeah. This is
this is your department,
my baby.
right? Yeah.
So I just I have a.
Do you have a real one?
No, I don't have a real. I'm going to show the fake one.
Oh, that one is cool too. Yeah. That has all the different things, right?
Yeah, exactly. So let me see. Share my screen.
I unplugged all kinds of things in my home to make that screenshot.
I mean, it's amazing that you see a lot more information.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Okay. I shared the wrong tab. So, okay, I'm going to talk about this first because I shared the wrong tab. And if I take this away, people are going to be like, well, what was this?
Okay.
So this is a feature that we didn't mention in the release notes because it's not user-facing. But we have a new thing for Lovelace. So in Lovelace dashboard, you can define your cards, you can define your views, and what we call a dashboard is a title, views, and views have cards. What we see is that there's been a couple of projects that are creating full-on custom dashboards. And so they tell people, here's like some Jinja templates, and just generate all this Lovelace on the fly. And we wanted to make this easier. So what we introduced is called strategies. So a strategy is a piece of JavaScript like a custom card, but instead of defining how a card looks, it defines how a Lovelace view or a full Lovelace dashboard looks. And it can access any data that you have inside Home Assistant. So this demo, what we're seeing now on the screen, and let me just make the window a bit smaller so it better shows. This is a strategy that you can attach to a view, and it will query your area registry, and it will query and finds all your battery sensors, and will then create an automatic dashboard for you with a group of cards per area, which groups all your battery sensors. So this is like a battery dashboard that is just automatically generated. There's no work being done as a user. And so actually, if you go and look at the edit dashboard, you can see that there's no edit buttons here. And that is happening. And if you look at the raw configuration editor, you can actually see that the only thing is there, and I'm going to zoom in, is that just this is it, strategy type custom blue battery. And what is so cool about this is that there are multiple strategies available. So you can also see here that there's a strategy called original states. This is the built-in one. And this is the one that's currently being used for the Lovelace automatically generated dashboard. So this means that instead of having the automatically generated dashboard live as like a dashboard that you have to go to like configuration, you can actually put it in a view at the end of all your views, so you can always easily access it. And we expect to actually introduce more of these strategies. So for example, for the energy dashboard that Klaas is working on, we're going to implement this as a strategy. That means that we will generate a dashboard for you that we think, based on your preferences, looks what you need. But just as with Lovelace generated dashboard, you'll be able to take control, and then you can just like fiddle around. Another really cool thing here is that you can actually pass in options into strategies. And so we're going to build a UI for this and all this stuff, right? So this is really just the bare bones to get developers playing with it. But it means that you can actually have strategies with preferences that can do anything you want. They can build any dashboard. And these dashboards can also reference custom cards, for example, or they can reference whatever you want. So really, you can create a custom dashboard for Home Assistant and have users easily be able to use it. So I'm really stoked about this. Yeah, if you go to Home, this is the automatically generated one. And then, yeah, there's actually, I can share, I have one more. I will actually see if I can share that one too. Now that which I made like another easy, quick, never mind, the transition is not smooth. I had another strategy that like looked at the way areas, look at your areas and create automatically a view per area. But I can show, I have this, what I just shared. It's a part of the developer documentation, so you don't have to like, you can actually look at the developer documentation, but I will also create this banner real quick. Just type this in your browser and
That's a really nice pause. Thank you.
Yeah.
I will give
Can you
5
paste that into
minutes
the
to-
comments?
Yeah, I'll get posted in the comments.
Better.
Hope you can write with all your 10 fingers.
You can pause YouTube, by the way, even live.
Oh yeah. No, so this is Periscope blocked a comment. Okay.
Of course.
Anyway, yeah, so this is going to be really cool, and I think this is only like a small step, and we're going to build this out a lot more.
I can build my own strategy for my custom, how I want build. Nice.
Yeah, so anyone can build any strategy. You just include them like you do Lovelace resources, right? Just the same you do cards. They're probably gonna, we're not gonna have them be distributed like blueprints, just because it's JavaScript files and they can access all your data, right? So we want to make sure the ones we include we trust. But yeah, there will probably be a way of distributing them or people just getting them easily. But yeah, it's gonna be. I'm really stoked about strategies, and it's been, we came up with this idea, me, Bram, and Zach, like last year July or something, and now we finally like wrapped it up. It has been like brewing in the back of our minds, and like now it's here. So
That's so cool.
yeah.
So are strategies going to be something that are customizable, or it's not customizable, but like, is there going to be like a user built strategy, or is it only going to be like canned strategies from you guys that we can implement?
No, so both, yeah, so both are possible. And so both will have access to the exact same features, right? So it's just an asynchronous JavaScript function. I mean, you need to be a programmer to build them, but you should be able, right now, if you added YAML in your Lovelace dashboard in YAML, you can already use it. So for example, my battery strategy that I built, I already added options that you can merge, that will be merged into the options for your for the sensor cards. So you can easily disable, for example, the graphs.
Cool.
So this little dashboard that Paul has made with the batteries, he actually sent me that one. Like, hey, now you're updated. Like I run it nightly, so he was like the next morning, like, hey, you updated. So here's a little JavaScript file. Maybe you want to test it. I was like, okay. So I added it, and all of a sudden I had like a page with all my batteries in my home and their status, which is really cool because I didn't do anything. I just had the little strategy file and made this little addition to my YAML configuration of my Lovelace dashboard. And all of a sudden I had a view with all my batteries. I think that is kind of powerful. Like, I'm really curious what everybody could come up with, like indeed per area, some kind of generation, or I don't know what. Like, our community is the most creative, I guess. But yeah, for me, building Lovelace dashboards is a hard thing. I'm not like a front-end UI guy, and I really have a hard time doing that. So if something I can pick from that generates something that I like, and I'm pretty happy. So I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. I think I hope to see like a revolution in like the things we share together, right? Instead of like, because there's so many cool cards, but they're all like individual cards, and you see a lot of people like tweaking all these cards. But for example, I also see like 10 different people sharing a HomeKit dashboard. I'm like, well, there could have been a strategy, right? It could have been like, and then everybody has a HomeKit dashboard. And we see 100 HomeKit dashboards. Or I have to say HomeKit inspired, of course.
Yeah, that's cool.
So, but this was not the tab I was going to share, huh?
No. We're talking about like integrations dashboard.
Yes. I'm going to try again. There you go. It's called HA Gallery. All right. What we're seeing here is all the different states that our integration card can be. And so if you go to configuration to integrations, you always, you could see all the logos of all the stuff that we integrated, and logos were brand new. We had introduced it for that page, so we always showed the logos really big. But what we realized is there's not much space for something. Like, you can have like 8 integrations, and then you already had to scroll, and so we did some grouping, but then errors weren't showing up, and it was we're taking up too much space. So what we're going for now is if you have made it more compact, and also added more features. And so there's a couple of features that I want to highlight. So first, the logo has been changed by the icon, and it's been kind of moved around to just be like a kind of a small header on top. But there's a few things that I really want to highlight. One is if your config entry didn't set up, you used to have to go to the logs, did something fail? That's no longer the case. Right now, you will be able to see the gist of it inside the card. Like, for example, here you see retrying setup. And then if they actually passed in an error message, you will be able to see that error message also inside the card. This is in this example here. This is a localized one, so it can actually be translated in like, whatever the language your browser is set to. Or if you have like integrations that haven't been like migrated to use a new type of error, it will actually show the full on old error, which is not very useful, but at least you know it's retrying. And then also, if you have an overview of like grouped ones, you will actually see also which ones failed to set up, so you can easily like decide to open them and then like see more information. But we also wanted to go one step further. See, one of the issues we're having is that sometimes people have custom integrations, but they don't realize it's a custom integration and they open bugs with us. So one of the things that we wanted to show is, hey, this is a custom integration. So to simulate that, now the custom integration is shown as a label in the top right. So that way you are like, oh, this is a custom integration. And then you know that you have to contact the custom integration author if something doesn't work. So that's going to be really cool. But then also we were like, well, we have the space now to show some information. We can, of course, not show everything that is like known about this integration, but we can tell people if it relies on the cloud. Because, one of the things that we always tell people, get IoT stuff that communicates locally, because this will be more reliable. There will be no surprises from the vendor in the future. It just works faster. And so we want to kind of educate our users also if something is using the cloud or goes local. And so Frank has been leading the effort of actually migrating all this information inside Home Assistant Core. It used to live inside the documentation, and it used to live inside the config flows. And so this is now part of the integration manifest. So now if something relies on the cloud, you will see a small cloud badge on the screen as well. So now if your integration card has a cloud badge, you're like, oh, this relies on the cloud. Maybe I should find an alternative. And of course, if it is a custom integration that relies on the cloud, you get two icons.
That's cool.
So these icons can be really helpful. For example, the custom integration one can be helpful for if you don't know you're running custom integration, and it happens a lot actually, more than we realized in the past. For example, Home Assistant has the Shelly integration from the core, but there's also a custom Shelly integration out there. So what happens is that, well, but also the custom integration project gets like reports for the one or the other, right? So now it's hopefully more visible on what you are running. But also if you like made and built-in integration custom, so if you copy data files and try to make a built-in integration custom, then it still will show that little custom badge, right? Even if it is a built-in one that you made custom.
Got it.
So it's kind of nice.
Guys, 1 second, I gotta.
And
just going to ask a question.
You got to
you can ask questions, right?
I was just going to say it. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna ask. I don't see any toggles in the UI. That's just in his demo card here.
Yeah, this is for them.
Yes.
Got it. Makes sense.
So this is a little demo website the front-end project uses that can simulate and shows all different permutations there are for cards and stuff. And that helps during development, like, is everything still working without having to set up an actual instance. So this is a statically generated website that actually just shows cards. That's why you see all of them are with ESPHome logos, even though MQTT is listed, right? So.
Right. Yeah.
Hey, I gotta step out for. I gotta pick up my daughter. I thought it was 1:30, but it's 12:30, so I'm already 30 minutes late. So I'll be back in 30 minutes if you guys are still going. Otherwise, I'll see you next time. Cheers.
Cool.
Cheers.
See you.
All right.
So let me drop back into the integration dashboard then. Hold on.
Oh, Paul shared that then.
Sorry? Yeah, he shared that, so it dropped out. But, we still have the release notes, right?
I think for me, the best thing is to have a lot more information on the view.
Yes, that definitely helps. I also like the little details. Like in my case, this is from my instance. I got multiple ESPHomes, right? So that list is now like cut off. And while you think at first, like my first response was like, but that doesn't look good, right? This is like just cut off middle of the text. But actually, it just like shows you there's more.
Right.
So it kind of makes sense. I think there's
Awesome.
more detail to find here now. Yeah.
But you can scroll on the list.
Yes. You can scroll on the list. It also shows the scroll bar. Because I'm a Mac user, the scroll bars are really tiny. I think in Windows they're bigger actually.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a scroll bar.
That is cool.
I mean, normally you have more than one ESPHome device. If you're starting with ESPHome, you will end pretty fast with.
They tend to add up, right?
Oh man, yeah. Once you start with one, it's you end up with a lot. Once you figure out that you can get one of those, ESP01 relays, and they're like $3, you start putting a relay on everything. You're like, well, at least it's a relay. Then you're like, well, now it needs to be a dimmer, and oh man.
Or you buy those ones you can flash with ESPHome. That's my hobby.
Exactly.
I bet a lot of people do that.
Yes.
I would love to see that if more manufacturers make device with ESPHome.
Yeah.
Or make it at least accessible.
Yeah.
I think the Shellys are really known for that, right? So they actually like make the pins available so you can flash ESPHome into them. I think that's nice. And Sonoff, of course, is still used a lot by the community to flash, although they not really that accessible. But
one cool thing of ESPHome today is that it generates the name, so you don't need to make an image for each device. If you build a firmware for one, you can flash it to multiple devices, and they generate its own name.
Really? I didn't know that.
That's relatively new, I think. Yeah.
Wow.
So it can adjust the name based on the device itself, on device properties, I believe. I haven't tried it.
And the Mac address.
Yeah. Like you pass it in as like a substitute in ESPHome. Is that what you're talking about?
No, it can even like set a name based on its MAC address, I believe.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay.
So then you just flash them all with the same firmware, like literally the same binary, unchanged.
And then it's the name and the minus, and then the MAC address or a part of the MAC address.
As a random number kind of thing to it, and then later when you hook it up to Home Assistant, it doesn't matter anymore, right? So because you can just give it a name in Home Assistant, it doesn't have to match the name of the actual device.
Gotcha. That's cool.
So let's see, we have something else this release, and that's color modes. So I see some nice color lights behind you, Ben.
I do have a lot of lights. A lot of lights. I think that's the world's most expensive light fixture now. It's like a $20 light fixture with like $300 of light bulbs in it. It's
what are those?
The most ridiculous thing. I see like the, oh gosh, what's it called? Nanoleaf Aurora. People have those panels.
Yeah.
Like they're like every YouTuber has them. I'm like, you know what? That's ridiculous. I'm not gonna have that. They're so expensive. Then I turn around, I'm like counting LifeX bulbs, and I'm like, oh,
LifeX. Right.
There's some hue in there. I kind of mix them up a little bit. It's but yeah, it's funny. They're great light bulbs, though. I still love them. LifeX will always have a special place in my heart, even though there's a lot of really good, affordable options now.
I have a ton of that stuff, but I haven't tried that one yet. I still have to. I feel. So what we did for this release for Home Assistant is maybe some background information on how lights worked in Home Assistant, is that everything had a US saturation, so HS. That's the color we used with the brightness, and then you get a nice little circle you know from the UI, and then you can slide for the brightness. And that's how Home Assistant actually handled colors mainly. All the other colors were translated or recalculated, or if you put in RGB colors or whatever, it will still use the HS value under the hood. But that actually originates from Philips Hue, I guess, although they are XY. But part of that is like from back in the old day Home Assistant. And that doesn't always fit. It's kind of like nowadays you have those nice little fancy LED strips with a warm white on it, or RGBW, RGBWW strips. That's really cool, but they are actually hard to like work with in Home Assistant because, well, we have a color, right? So now Home Assistant supports light modes, so it can actually define the color type or mode the device is in and change the interface to it as well, so that you can actually set the warm white and actually change the colors, like Ben now is demonstrating in the background.
Cool. Oh my goodness. Wow. That's like, oh man. Yeah, I've definitely, wow. That's awesome.
That's now native, so you don't translate between the color models anymore.
No, it won't. That's the benefit. So it is not just, it's also the controls it adjusts, but it also doesn't translate it anymore. For example, for WLED, I had like, if you selected white in the middle, like in the middle of this color wheel, then I knew
it was never right.
But yeah, I did, because I asked, is this almost white? And if it was almost white in the code, I would actually send like some other values to WLED to work with the white value of an RGBW strip to make it pure white in that case. And that's actually really messy. We had more integrations doing those kind of magic in order to resolve the fact that Home Assistant didn't have that. So now we have those controls more. Wow. It also means that we can now, because we know what color mode the light is in, we can actually store the color as it was meant to be. So if a light is in RGB mode, then we can store the RGB color instead of the HS color. I'm not sure if that is in this release though, but I know that's part of the intention, that if you create a scene, for example, that we would store the color that is actually like matches your light and not something we think it was.
But yeah, it's the integration needs support that, so it's not out of the start all integration supported.
No, that's correct. So I think Tesmoda has been merged today that does it.
Today. So it's not, not in the release.
Yes, it's in the release.
It's in the release.
Yes, Tesmodo has been merged and pulled into the release last minute because actually the old version was broken. So this actually fixed the bug in this case. So Tesmodo has been added last minute, but I think LifeX has been done indeed. I've got a couple more. MQTT, of course. So if you use Zigbee to MQTT in the latest release will actually now communicate light color modes to Home Assistant. So that's kind of nice. Shelly, indeed, has been done. Oh. I think it just looks really cool. It's still the same thing, but you have a couple of more sliders and it just works better. I don't have an example here, but if you have like a light that can do both color and color temperature, it will actually show you a tab. So previously you would have a slider with the color temperature and the color wheel next to each other. Right now it becomes some kind of tab, so you can choose between one of the or the other. I think that is done well as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. So cool.
That's color mode. I'm really looking forward to all the integrations to implement that. I think the world will be better, especially in the controlling of lights than what it was before.
Yeah, yeah, I had a lot of change before with trying to calculate the color better between the different models. I remember someone added, and then next release a next adjustment, and then yeah.
So what I think is not in this part of the release notes, but if you're using light profiles, we talked about it a couple of times, and I actually started looking into that now. If you're using light profiles in Home Assistant, they will actually now work better at this point as well, because previously I believe light profiles would change the color of the light. If you have set a default for your light, like a color and a brightness, and you would change the brightness slider, it would reset the color because that was the default. That was a bit of annoying. That has been fixed this release as well. So you can now, if you turn it on, it will apply the default, and if it's turned on and you would slide like the brightness, it would just leave the color as is if you changed it before. So I think that is a little bit better now. I still think light profiles needs a better place in Home Assistant itself, though. I don't know. It feels a bit. I heard about a feature. I've never touched it until this release, actually, to look at the bug.
I used in the past, but yeah, I mean, you can nowadays use scenes for that.
Right. True. Right. You can just use a scene to turn it on, right?
One of the things that would be on my feature wish list, which I think would be really cool, would be to be able to set like a light like profiled, so like kind of like the temperature and the brightness as like a preset, and then when you open up the card in Home Assistant, you have like saved presets. So you have like bright, dim, and color temperature. It just applies those settings in the card. Because like there's a lot of the times where it's like, you have like the 5 things you like in your house. You just want, this is my energized mode. Hue kind of does this, but not in Home Assistant. It'd be cool to have that. I don't know how hard that is. Just wishing for things.
Just thinking, right? So if you have scenes, we actually know which lights are in which scenes. So maybe it would be like a thing to have like tap and show the scenes that are associated with that light.
Mm-hmm. True.
That would be a great idea.
There are times when you're just like, if you're opening up a card in Home Assistant, in my opinion, you're probably not wanting to deploy a scene because you would have just activated the scene otherwise, right? The card, you're like trying to like set like a light a certain color or whatever. Baby sleeping, so you want to turn off the light over its head or something. So it'd be nice if you had like like preset colors. Is that the right way to describe that? I don't know. That may not be possible.
Colors. That sounds like you're using WLED somewhere, like those presets.
Yeah, exactly. Because you can do that with WLED.
Yeah,
it's an idea.
That's kind of nice, though. Maybe. So, Bram, are you watching? Oh boy, is he? I don't know, actually. Okay, let's see. We have another one, which is actually one of Paulus's his things, and that's the trigger-based binary template sensor. It's a binary sensor. I placed the word template a bit in the middle, which is a bit weird, but else it doesn't sound correct at all. I don't know. So what you can now do is define, like last release, we introduced trigger-based sensors. So you could have a trigger that created a sensor and provided sensor data. And this has now been extended to binary sensors. So you can now have a binary sensor that shows the state and changes the state of a template sensor based on a trigger. This sounds a bit weird, but what you could do with this stuff is, for example, we have those Home Assistant events, and some people find those hard to use or would actually like to show them on a dashboard or do whatever they want to do with it. And what you could do now is say, okay, there's in this example, there's a NetAtmo. I hope I pronounce it correctly. Weird name still for me. A NetAtmo event. And if that event happens, I want to set off a binary sensor, trigger it, and turn it on, or turn it off, or do whatever you want to do it, but at least change the sensor entity based on a trigger. And that can be helpful to translate events into entities if you want to.
That's really cool. So that helps a lot. That's a nice thing.
Yeah. In this example, it will trigger a motion sensor and it will actually turn it off again after 60 seconds, which is kind of nice. But some other ideas I'll link to. You can create a webhook and send data into the webhook and actually fill the sensors with the data that has been sent into the webhook. So that's kind of nice. But you could also make, and I think this is one of the powerful things, because I've seen in the past a lot of people struggle with template sensors and how often they should update, right? So what you could do now is define a time trigger, like how often, like every second or well, I would not do every second. We talked about that for the database. That's a bad idea. But you could, for example, like make a sensor that updates based on a time trigger every midnight. That has a binary sensor, for example, that tells you if it's your birthday or not. So you only have to calculate that once, right? Like every night at midnight, you can calculate if it's somebody's birthday and then change the binary sensor to on if it is that day today. So I think that is really cool. But that's just a birthday. You could do the same for if somebody gets home, or if one of the devices you're tracking is changing zone. You could trigger those template entities and calculate if somebody is home or not based on all other data you have in your system.
Right.
I really like that you can translate events to sensors or now binary sensors. That's a really powerful feature.
Yes. That's crazy. This is the kind of thing where like somebody will have an idea and they're like, how do I do this? And then they're going to come up with how this works. And then they're going to be like, I'm a genius. I feel like it's crazy.
I'm really looking forward to, like, if all the template stuff are ported into this, then I would love to see, but that's wishful thinking at this point, is maybe add like blueprint capabilities to this part. That would be cool.
Wow.
You could share like I don't know, like I see all those sensors being shared, right, in templates, and that you could just get I don't know, somebody has like that great idea to calculate I don't know what, and then you could just say I want it to.
Blueprint automation, you can make blueprints entity, and they will be translated to template entities.
Yeah, something like that, right?
Or blueprint scripts. That would be nice.
Well, that's actually landed, right?
Yeah, right.
It's not user-facing yet, but if you're interested and you know how blueprints work, it's currently like really DAFI-ish, right, still. But blueprints can now be, scripts can now be blueprinted in Home Assistant. That will actually work. It's not documented. It's not in the release notes, but it is there if you're interested in that kind of thing. It works exactly the same as for automations, but then for scripts. So the start is there. We're hoping to get more blueprints out in the future, I hope.
That's cool. So, question for you.
Yeah.
What would you say to somebody who, like, I'm thinking about myself, so I'm trying to wrap my head around this. I think if I were to try and create an automation like this, I would probably use Node-RED right now, just because Node-RED's kind of the native language I speak. It's after I started using it, it's hard for me to go back to some of the native automation tools. Although now they're so much better. But what would be the advantage of something like this over Node-RED? I mean, couldn't you kind of essentially do the same? But I assume there's probably performance advantages and stuff here.
Well, sure. Like Node-RED, you're probably, at least to me, you're talking to the wrong guy. So I maintain a Node-RED add-on, right? I created the add-on, and the thing is used quite a bit, and I make it run the best I can, but I don't like Node-RED personally, which is a bit weird, because I think like it is an extra programming tool, and to me, I think it's a personal thing, really. Like, to me, it doesn't speak. All those graphs, and then you have to like drag all that stuff in and connect the dots, and then you have to open up the nodes, and there's a lot of JSON going on, and I don't like that, and it's not visible when I look at it. For me as a programmer, that doesn't work. So for me, YAML is probably the better choice, and why I like it.
Yeah.
Is there an advantage? I don't know. I think the automation editor, or not the automation editor, I think automations in Home Assistant are more capable because they're closer to Home Assistant itself. It used to be the other way around. Node-RED was more capable, but last year there's so much changed and added to the automations and scripts engine in Home Assistant that they're competitors. I would say there are some things in Node-RED that Home Assistant can't do, and the other way around it's the same.
Right.
I come from OpenApp.
Yeah. Oh boy.
I ran over, I don't know, 6 years, 7 years ago. Never mind. And they have an engine for automation. There's a programming engine, so you really programming your automation. So I have a lot of automations, complex automations, and so I look into Home Assistant. So okay, it's XAML, yeah, can work. Okay, you have just trigger, condition, actions. So how I can translate my really complex programmed automation into such simple things that I think it out that that's not possible. So I translated, maybe it was 40 lines programming into XAML automation in Home Assist, and I end up with 40 lines. And I was so, what? How is that possible? It's more than the half less lines. It's a lot simpler, and it works better as the full programmed automation. And I was also looking to Node-RED and started to make all my automation with all the nodes and all the possibilities. And I end up in something so complex that was so hard to understand with all the lines and nodes. And in Home Assist, it was just 40 lines, a lot readable.
I think it depends really on the person.
Yeah.
In the end, like how you consume it and how you like it. I can see why people like Node-RED. I definitely can understand, and I don't know. I think this is like the old like Internet Explorer, Chrome, Firefox discussion kind of thing.
Right.
One you win something, the other you lose something, and the other way around the same. I think it has become really powerful. I think that is what, especially all the new features. I often talk to people and they show an automation and I'm like, yo, this can be simpler. You can actually do this, and they're going like, oh wow, can Home Assistant do that? Yes, it can. I think there's a really much, because Home Assistant has changed so much. There's so much information out there that is outdated, right? So there are a lot of solutions out there that are actually really complicated, while nowadays you can actually do that in a couple of lines. I think that is one of the problems we're facing. Node-RED actually made that visibler and more visibly, and like you can see it more from the start. And maybe doesn't require that kind of, well, they have subflows now and those connectors to all those things, right? I think that's the kind of thing where Node-RED try to improve on their handling and the projects and those kind of things. So we all struggle with those things to make it more accessible. Except with all the YAML solutions and everything we have in the community that has grown, there's a lot of old information out there. And it's really hard to get that new information, the good examples out there, because there are a lot of old examples.
Yeah, and I think it's with blueprints and with in the latest release with the new debugger or tracing, it's make a lot easier to understand what is or how is the automation is going, and why it breaks or why it stops, or that it never runs maybe.
So I see a little question, or not question, a little comment pop up there. This one. The only thing I still have in Node-RED is a more complex timer. I could not find a real solution for that in YAML. But if you have like a timer, like a countdown, you can actually do that nowadays with a wait for trigger. You could just wait for a couple of seconds and do something, or wait on event. Those are really powerful things that actually you cannot do in Node-RED. But if it comes to scheduling and stuff, yeah, then probably Node-RED is at this point easier to deal with. So it depends a bit on like the context and what you're looking for. I don't know. For me, it's purely YAML, and I am also a believer of eat your own dog food a bit, although that's not totally fair for me to say as the add-on maintainer. But yeah,
it's interesting. I think one of the, and it's maybe a conversation for a different day, but it would be interesting for you guys to talk about kind of what you see as the future of Home Assistant in terms of like long term. Where would you like to see, users doing automations and scripts? Because I think maybe I don't want to speak for everyone, but I know that there is a contingent of people that are like in Node-RED, and the concept of going back to any sort of like YAML would be really hard because, for me, I think of like my presence automation and presence detection and what's happening. And, in that case, you have multiple triggers and there are, subflows and, you have multiple places where you're actioning something that's linking to something else and then triggering another thing. And doing that in a traditional Home Assistant automation would be hard because you'd end up linking multiple automations across. And so, I think to me, it's kind of like, well, I'm sure it can be done in Home Assistant, but now, I'm kind of stuck in Node-RED. So do you guys have a thought about kind of what you'd like the future of Home Assistant automations to be? I mean, do you see it kind of continuing to evolve into a more visual workflow in terms of being able to link between automations really easily, or is it kind of going to...
Well, linking between automations can already be done. It's called scripts, right? So you make a script and you reuse that script on multiple places.
True, yeah.
So that's one of the things, right? And another solution could be using events, for example. You could trigger an event and trigger another script. I believe Pascal is one of the persons I know that does that.
Yeah, actually. But I rewrite a lot of things to use the choose nowadays.
A chooser, yeah, right. That's a big example of what has improved. Right. Yeah, the addition to chooser.
I think, we definitely move forward to have a better user interface for writing automation. But also, I think automation are more for pro users. And I think the blueprint is something they are more for normal user. They can just maybe a blueprint store or whatever, and they can search this use case, download the blueprint, and have a user interface and just fill out the fields, the selectors, and generate the automation from that.
True. I think like blueprints are like, maybe that's the good way, right? Maybe one should mix and match, right? If you have a blueprint, you could really quickly create something, right? If you have like one of those Philips Hue remotes, like there are a lot of people that have those, you can just pick up a blueprint and say, if you push this button, then this happens, and this button, that happens, and then you're done. That's something that not an automation or Node-RED can do more easily than just a simple blueprint. So probably like you can probably automate with those things, like, I don't know, 70% of your home, and like do the more complex things with whatever you like. But things you can do easy, you should do easy. You should not like stick with one method. Like you do not have to build everything like in pure old-fashioned YAML or I don't know how many subflows or things, because that's your pattern. Just like get rid of like the big chunk of easy stuff you can do with a blueprint or a UI automation or whatever, and then focus on the complex things.
And a blueprint did my automations or my life a lot easier. So I have no wall switches. All lights are full automated in my home based on presence detection and state and whatever. And I have before I had the automation for every room, and I have 7 rooms, to automate the light. And now I have written a blueprint and just created for each room from that single blueprint the light automation. Yep. And I have just one single automation for update all the automations in my rooms.
Yeah, that's cool.
I think the shareability is better in general.
Oh, for sure.
Compared to Node-RED, like I sometimes see those blobs of JSON. I'm like, I don't know what you're giving me here. I have to import it to see it and then figure out what it does. But again, all of this is personal. I think there's no right solution there. I think like whatever you pick, even for the devices at your home, how you automate your home, what type of automations you use, and even if it's Home Assistant or OpenHAB or I don't know what other solutions out there. If it has to fit you, not because somebody else says it.
Right.
And that's the cool thing on Home Assist. It's really modular. You can really easy install Node-RED if you like and use Node-RED. So thanks to Frank for that.
Yeah. Well, yes. Well,
Yeah.
nowadays.
Awesome.
So
Cool.
there's a guest pending down there in my bar here, so I'm going to pull him in. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Jesse.
Hello.
I guess.
So Jesse, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah. So my name is Jesse. I started with Nabukasa a week and a half ago. Working full time pretty much on the ESPHome project.
Yes.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
awesome.
You have a fan there.
I'm a big fan.
I've been watching the stream all this morning. You guys keep going back to ESPHome over and over again.
Well, it's a game changer, man. It changed home automation for me. And I always said home automation is for everyone. And then I, start playing with Arduino IDEs and trying to write that code. And it's like, well, you can't say that it's for everyone. But like, legitimately with ESPHome, I mean, the level for entry, it goes down to zeros. Like, can you plug in a USB cable and like hit flash? I mean, it's that easy now, which is, it's amazing. I mean, that is truly amazing. It's lowered the cost. It's so good.
Definitely. You see a lot of people posting messages like, oh, I've got so much more time for actually designing this thing and making it better because I don't have to worry about the firmware and writing it all.
Yeah. I've designed stuff for work with ESPHome, like legitimate in the places I've been. I've done some stuff there with ESPHome and it works great. I mean, it's so reliable. It's amazing.
It is. That is amazing, though. It is reliable. I do not lie. My ESPHome devices are probably the most reliable devices I have in my home.
True.
Yeah. For real. Yeah. Sorry. So, in case you guys missed it, everybody's watching. A Home Assistant or Nabukasa acquired the ESPHome project. So ESPHome is now part of Nabukasa, and Home Assistant is now has a new sister project, ESPHome. And Jesse has been hired to work for Nabukasa full time, and he is going to work on ESPHome full time. So I am hoping to see a lot of stuff happening there. Actually,
yeah, I'm I guess I've been working on ESPHome for a while now, but I guess I'm sort of now in the ramp up phase of really getting into it, being able to spend that time on it. Previously, it was just after dinner sort of thing. Now it's during the day.
So cool.
So, yeah.
What are you Are there any plans, or can you I don't know, tell something that's coming? Or
there are a few things, I guess. Yeah. So right now, I guess I'm just trying to go through the backlog of all of the pull requests. See what's there. I mean, there's like 150 pull requests that have been sitting there for a while now.
There's bigger.
Yep.
Yeah, and I don't know. Some have been there for months. Some of them have been there for over a year even. And yeah, it's hard to go back and know which ones to merge. And a lot of them are waiting for changes from the original authors and things like that. So I've been going through some of the, starting as old as I can, I guess, trying to get the older ones in first. And if I can, I'll make some changes on there and just merge them. But in terms of sort of features coming, I started working on a BLE provisioning feature. So instead of using the captive portal, which doesn't always work so well on phones, you'll be able to provision your ESP32 based devices using BLE, which should be a bit of a game changer there, and especially with the feature you guys talked about before with the suffixing of the MAC address on the name. It'll be much easier for people to sell devices and just have it ready to go almost. You've got to hopefully use the Home Assistant companion app to just provision that device directly on your Wi-Fi.
So that would mean that you flash like a USB chip, and you would just open up an app on your phone, and it will communicate over Bluetooth to put in the Wi-Fi settings and stuff into your chip, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Hey,
Man,
Hello.
that would be awesome.
I come back.
Hello.
I'm back. No, we would even go further. We want you to be able to flash an ESPHome stub through the browser on your device. But the Chrome has like a web serial. We can flash ESPHome or your ESP32, use the Home Assistant app or the website to provision the Wi-Fi, and then you push updates from the ESPHome panel.
Yeah, so the browser actually allows the BLE communication as well. So just a static site you can just on the website or from the ESPHome website.
So it would just like flash like I sound like a noob or something. Like you could just flash like a simple, what is it, like a bootstrap firmware or something on it, and it's like an empty shell.
An ESPHome config with just API in it to receive over-the-air updates, and it adds the MAC address so it's unique. And you're good to go.
Right. So you would just flash something with something generic on your website, and you would just plug it in somewhere, and then you go into like the ESPHome panel and start digging in. Right?
Yeah.
Oh,
so
wow.
cool.
And we can go one step further, because once we have, there's so many Bluetooth devices out there that we can just like read out. There's these like Xiaomi temperature sensors that are just broadcast. Like if ESPHome can pick those up, you can just literally like say, this is what I want to do with my ESP device, flash it through a website, Wi-Fi through Bluetooth, and you're good to go.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, like right now you can use the BLE tracker, but you manually have to set up all of the MAC addresses of the BLE devices. So one thing in the future could be to just automatically forward all of the BLE found devices that are sort of broadcasting supported packets through to Home Assistant, and let Home Assistant decide what to do with them. There, sort of thing.
I was actually.
That would also allow like sort of load balancing on ESP32, so you could put them around the house, and if multiple of them found the same device, the BLE doesn't go too far.
No, back in the day, you had like a project that was called Happy Bubbles. I believe Ben even made a video about it. Happy Bubbles. It's also in his his rack of stuff.
Yeah, but
Happy Bubbles.
Like all of it. Yeah.
I really thought that concept was cool, and actually something similar has never popped up though. Like I cannot remember, but that could actually be done then.
Yeah. The whole BLE presence detection thing has always just been a horrible mess, at least in my opinion. It's
well, hasn't presence detection in general been a horrible mess? Like I
never trust it.
See, my like fundamental issue with presence detection is I don't want to carry around a tag, and I want to use my phone, and that's the whole problem, right? Because maybe it's I've always put the blame on Apple on this one, because Apple kind of led a lot of the iBeacon stuff, and they locked down their ecosystem, and people couldn't use it, and now it's like they have their air tags. There was never like any sort of universal beacon, and I think that was probably the main issue that held it back, right?
Google made the Eddystone universal beacon, but Apple didn't adopt it, so then it's not universal.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe one day when that happens, that'll be awesome.
I hope I can soon connect to my grill for read the temperature over Bluetooth with ESPHome. That would be nice.
Right.
I merged the BLE client. I merged the BLE client PR the other day. So it's in the dev branch, and it'll come out in the next release, which will allow you to connect to those devices that aren't like advertising, like those, and expose the like temperatures and things as sensors directly. So that should be good.
Nice.
It's gonna make me like Bluetooth. Bluetooth has always just been the bane of my Home Assistant, or home in general, right? BLE, I've fought it. BLE's not so bad. Original Bluetooth is just horrible, but it's gonna give me faith again.
But all the Bluetooth stuff in Python is also a pain, right? So having it just ESP32 as a proxy is gonna be amazing.
Right.
That would be nice. Just a bridge.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we do the packet handling inside Home Assistant. I know that I was talking to Nick earlier today, and he said he would like this for a HomeKit controller. So the HomeKit controller integration could pick up Bluetooth HomeKit packages and actually process that too, right? So, I mean, that's of course the next step, but
Yeah, that is crazy. Well, my official pitch to you guys, just for your consideration, don't act on it or whatever. Just think about it. I firmly believe that you guys. You guys should absolutely think about putting out ESPHome hardware in terms of like there's like two things everybody uses, right? Where they have like their ESP32 and they have their ESP8266, ESP01. Find one of those that you like and put a power regulator on it so it takes, DC in, and just make the pin so they have a screw terminal on it or something, right? And sell that in the merch store, because if you have the power regulator on that and you have an ESP32 that can power an LED strip, or you can put temperature sensors on it, and you sell it for like not a huge markup, I think you'd have a tremendous, opportunity to connect with people, because I think everybody's buying an ESP32 and they're sitting there with like all the header pins on it, and they're like, now what? They're jumper wiring, and then they super glue the freaking header wires onto the back of the board, and if they're like me, they solder and they burn their house down. It's like you have somebody like me who's sitting there designing a PCB, and it's like, this is a nightmare. Like, nobody should have, like, there should just be like a really solid proto board with like a screw terminal or something.
So somebody is already mentioning it, because the first thing that comes to my mind, but Greg T is also mentioning, is the M5 stack stuff.
Yeah. See, but M5 stack, it's okay. I have this. I'm still trying to figure out how to use it.
Right.
It's like, I don't know. I feel like maybe I'm just a fanboy, but I think that you guys should have your own, brand it yourself, and put it in your store, and especially if it has a power regulator on it, because that's like the one thing. If you have an LED strip, and you have a 20 amp power supply or 10 amps or whatever you're doing, right? It's really convenient if you have one board you just plug in, and you don't have to futz with that. I mean,
well, for LED strips there is one, right? I forgot the name.
Quinn LED.
Right.
Quinn
I
actually
can't put
in the
my
chat.
Nexteon display on that, or like, I need some more pins.
Yeah, that's the
ESP32
problem every time, right? So, like, I don't know. But in the end, like, even if you hook up those things, you probably need some resistor somewhere or something else, and then you quickly run into, like, you could just as well get your own board. And I don't know.
No, but that's too difficult. I think what Ben is saying, and I agree with that, is that it will be like, so for example, I'm a software guy, right? But I really, really like the hardware stuff. I follow a bunch of people and I get like jealous all the time, and then right, so then I'm like, now I can at least like ask Jesse things, but there's like, it would be nice to be really straightforward guides, like, hey, buy these 3 pieces, you can build this. Oh, you have these components, you can build that.
Or even simpler, you have ESP and you buy the temperature sensor and just need plug and play in, and it works.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like a more advanced version of the M5 stacks, because the issue there is that they have like all of the wires like all bunched together. They have like JST connectors on everything, and like I forget what they call it, modules or whatever. Which in my opinion, what you'd want is just like the microcontroller, some kind of power regulator, and then screw terminals for all the pins on the board. Because then people can figure out how they want to cut their wires and put different relays on it. You don't want to be necessarily like forced into a JST connector on something. I don't know.
Right, so you're looking for a breakout board, something kind of like that,
Exactly.
with a power regulator, because that's
Exactly. See, what I started doing for a while is for the I forget which 19-pin ESP32, you can buy an Arduino Nano proto board that has the screw terminals on it, and you cut it in half, like literally with snips.
Yeah.
And then like the little wings sit out on each side of the ESP32, and then you can. Yeah, it works great.
I know,
but then
I've seen.
so that's like my like super like cheap solution to that. But I don't know. As a Home Assistant fan and ESPHome fan, I would happily buy a branded board if you guys came up with one.
Yeah, I think the pins is the tricky one. I think just people just blow it up all the time.
Yeah.
At least I have many ESPs of that in my hands.
Anybody looking out for starting with this stuff, by the way, just go to, I don't know, Banggood, AliExpress or Amazon, and they have those like really neat DIY starter kits with a breadboard with all kinds of different temperature sensors and LED lights. And if you're lucky and you pay $1 more, often there's a manual with some schematics and stuff.
That's optimistic. I don't know, man.
But there are tons of those kits available everywhere. And if you're really interested in trying to learn about like doing this stuff, I can really recommend buying such a kit. Like, you probably will blow some stuff up, and it doesn't matter. You will learn, and it's just really fun to play with. Like it's I don't know. It's just kick-ass to connect like a temperature sensor and see like, oh, look at this. I made a firmware and lit it up in this chip, and it's reporting over Wi-Fi this temperature sensor that I plugged in with some wires, and that doing that is like really a trigger for a lot of people, I think, to continue it. I did it once with the doorbell thingy. I've got a lot. I tried to make a little simple doorbell project, which Marshall now, by the way, greatly improved. In case people haven't seen it yet, but like a little simple chip and making the button of your doorbell like shorten one of those GPIO pins. It's a really simple concept, but it's like a gateway drug or something like to get into this stuff, right?
Yeah.
You have to find some project that is darn simple, and just order some parts and try and get a voltage regulator.
Or man, you put a battery on it and a charging solution all in one thing. Oh, people like that. I would like that.
Solar.
I've wasted a lot of time trying to figure out batteries on ESPHome stuff.
It works, but the problem is the battery. Based on what you do, the battery is really fast.
I've been actually looking into a mini solar panel, like with a little charging regulator and a couple of those bigger batteries. And then my problem I'm looking at right now is how can I get information from the solar and the battery power back into ESPHome to actually know the charging state and if it's charging and how much is there left and something like that. So you can, but like, how much of this kind of things can you put in a kit, right?
Well, let's start. I mean, for me, the gateway drug was the tag reader, right? Once we got the tag reader going, I mean, that was just really cool.
True.
Yeah.
Has your family let you put an electromagnetic lock on anything? Just like buzz yourself in, bang, push the door open. My wife has a no exposed wires policy, so I've not quite gotten to that yet. But every time I hear a tag, I'm like, man, I need that electromagnetic lock now, and just push the door open.
Yeah. No, we're just using it for children's songs. So my kids, when Storm was 1 year old, he could already like play the music. So
nice.
For better or worse.
I know Dr. Z's Justin. He actually built such a thing with his door with an electromagnetic lock on his toilet. That
so
if the seat isn't, this is not. I'm not joking here. If the seat is not put down, the door will not unlock.
Yeah, I saw that, and he had to build in like a 20-minute failsafe.
Yeah.
In case
oh my god!
Right.
Wow.
That's
you get
just
stuck. You have to like punch a hole through the wall and like rip the wire out or something.
I just put the toilet seat down.
There you go. Wow, that's cool. Yeah.
You got stuck. Somebody wrote that part.
That is, man, that's so cool. I have a dream one day about you doing a YouTube series of ridiculous home automation projects, and I'm not gonna lie, a lot of them go on toilet stuff. You know, there's a lot of interesting things you can do with toilets and home automation. So we'll see.
Right.
Maybe I'll team up with Dr. Z.
I was
The electromagnetic lock. That's there.
I think it was James who had like 8 battery-powered devices in his bathroom alone, and he had like, if you didn't wash your hands long enough, then Alexa would speak something, or like had a bunch of that stuff.
A little water sensor in the.
That's on my list, man. I keep waiting for that one.
That is something they will be failed by my wife. Once it works, I need to dismount everything on the next day.
Probably yes. You have something that works in your home? Yeah, you do. By the way, you have a lot of home automation.
Yeah. And I've also a lot in the shelf behind what I want to mount, but never found the time. But yeah, everybody has the same problem.
Yeah.
Too less time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I keep programming. That's my problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
This Sunday, I'm going to spend my time on my own home automation. And then I start, and then, like, after like 30 minutes, I'm like, why is this working this way? Let me change that real quick here. And then end of Sunday.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's how these things go.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
Did we? I missed like 30 minutes. Did we already finish all the release?
No, actually, we
No.
didn't. Actually, it was Pascal's turn. And then
Just goofing off.
Jesse came in, and we goofed along. And then
All
we
right,
talked about Dr. Caesar's toilet,
that's good.
which is true, right?
It's
No,
awesome.
there's still one little part of our release notes. Maybe we should just like do that because I think that is still interesting. Nevertheless, so should we jump
What's
into that?
the release
Yeah.
pipeline?
I cannot go back. I guess what's going on here?
Where you?
Oh, I see already. Here we go.
Knock. Oh, there you go.
Oh, yes.
Right. So back to the release notes because that's what we're here for, the release party. So
Yeah,
you want to
we,
talk about this one, Pascal?
Yeah, I can talk about that. Yeah, we start to push all our images also to GitHub container registry. So we now have Docker Hub and GitHub container registry. And that is a bit because of because of a rate limit of a Docker API. I think they stopped a bit with a rollout, but as they started with the new rate limit on the center, it was in place one of all issues. So there were so many people that run into this rate limits, and now we have the possibility to use the GitHub container registry. So the operating system and the supervisor will change automatically to use that. And for all they use the container installation type can, if they want. I mean, we also push the image to Docker Hub, but they can now use the also move over to the GitHub container registry.
Yeah, and the goal is eventually to, have the standard default installation be pointing at GitHub.
Yeah, we change all our documentation. Today they point to Docker Hub, but over the next week we update our documentation. And then we sign all our Docker images now also with a gold notary, so we can verify the integrity of our images. The supervisor and the operating system doing that automatically in the background. And if also on a container installation type, if you want to check if the images come from us or if you really built this image that you pull on your local system, you can now use the VCN tool or VCN tool from a gold notary to check the integrity of the image.
And one thing to note is that, if you can see the screenshot of the release notes, Code Notary is a distributed ledger solution. Now you might think that's blockchain. Thankfully it's not. It's actually just a immutable database that is distributed, but it's not actually the blockchain.
Exactly. It works like a blockchain, but don't have the downside like a blockchain. So it doesn't need all the CPU power to calculate the blocks and don't use a lot of energy for the immutable. That's amazing. So it's a really fast blockchain-like database.
It works well.
It's an amazing project. So you have a link. Everybody that have interest to look into that technology can just go to the GitHub repository. It's open source and look into the solution.
So if you're using Docker to run your Home Assistant, like not a supervised image or a Home Assistant, like just regular Docker, and you use Docker container for Home Assistant, then you can now switch over to the GitHub registry instead of Docker Hub, which I would personally, considering the things I've done with it at this point, would recommend.
Yeah.
By the way, it's just faster and no API rate limits. And if you have like an update script, you could incorporate code notary in it to verify it before actually start using it. So that's kind of nice, I guess.
Yeah, and we build now all on GitHub Actions.
Yeah, that's true.
We go all.
We go all.
It works fine, but for a release on the last step, it breaks.
Yeah, we did the last step behind this release because like everything worked flawlessly except the last part. But that's the first time, so that's okay.
We cannot show the full pipeline with everything's green. But it's funny, it runs before now 2 weeks or 1.5 weeks without any problem. So
and on the release it fails, but that's just me. That's always
that's the show effect.
Right. So then we have left the small things. Oh, mute sync. Do you have one of those things, Paulus, actually?
No, they're gonna send me one. So mute sync, full disclosure, that's like it's a project from a friend of mine. But they actually, so they are doing a button that actually connects to your computer, and then on your computer you run an app that keeps track if you're in a meeting and if you're muted or not, and then you can press a button to like unmute yourself. And I was talking to them like, well, you have that software, that's where all the logic is, and so I convinced them to actually to build an API and build a Home Assistant integration. So now you can run their software, then you can get your mute status and your meeting status inside Home Assistant. So then, for example, you can have like a light turn red in the living room when you're in a meeting and you don't want people to enter your room, for example.
That is awesome.
Yeah, I used to do this before with
AutoHotkey.
No, the Home Assistant Mac app. The Home Assistant Mac app can actually send when my camera is on or not. But this one actually knows also my mute status. So now I'm playing with this.
Cool. That is awesome.
Yeah.
But that works only for Mac or also for other platforms?
Also for Windows.
Also Windows.
Yeah.
So if one sends me also one, I can test it.
No, but you can you can use it without the physical button. You could actually just install the software and it's already in Home Assistant.
Oh, right.
Because the button is just a button. I mean, to toggle your mute status, but you don't need the button to use the button software.
So I can make a software button and one of Ben's nice button.
Yeah.
Can you connect it to Home Assistant through like something like a webhook, so remotely when you're not on your same Wi-Fi network or inside your VPN?
Yes,
for example?
so it runs a small server on your computer that Home Assistant talks to. So no, it's not the other way around. You would hope your computer talks to Home Assistant, but that's not happening. That would be the easiest, yeah.
Webhooks.
Gotcha.
But then, do you want your light to say that you're in a meeting while you're not at home and you're in a meeting?
It could be useful. I don't know.
See,
I only know how to do stuff in Home Assistant, so if I want to automate something, just have all of everything running on Home Assistant and then have it send it back to work to change my LED.
True. Actually, Frank, now thinking about this release note and thinking about what Ben just said, Blueprint scripts, it's in, right?
Yeah, the basics are in, but there's no UI yet or control for it. Well, we touched upon it real quick, but there's no control or UI for it yet. But yes, if you know how blueprints work in automations, you can in YAML now use blueprints for scripts. But it's at this point undocumented and well, no UI or important things or.
But yeah, what I'm most excited about is our built-in script blueprint, because the iOS app has done a release last week, maybe a week before, to standardize the actions on notifications. So
that isn't released yet, I believe.
Oh, that's in beta?
That's in beta.
Okay, it was released in beta 1 or 2 weeks ago, and so an actionable notification on your phone is a notification that you get, and it has actions, and these actions can actually send back data to Home Assistant. And this is cool because you can do a confirmation, for example, like, hey, should I close? And the garage door is left open. Should I close it? Previously on iOS, it was a bit more cumbersome because you had to predefine actions, but now we have built-in actions. And what Frank built with the script, the blueprint script, is that you can define a blueprint script that contains a script, like a normal script, and it contains the mobile phone device. And then when you run that script, it will confirm with the mobile phone, should this script run, yes or no? And if you click yes, it will execute it, otherwise it won't. And this is just built as a reusable piece. So you can just, you just quickly configure it, boom.
So what you could do is make an instance, for, like a script instance from the blueprint for your mobile phone, and then send a message from your automation. For example, you have an automation that detects you're leaving your home and there's nobody there. Then you could like just spawn to the script like, should I close the garage door? And then you could respond with yes or no, and then it will execute that action. And the decision on sending that message and deciding to execute that action is inside that blueprint script. So you have a little reusable piece of code you can create to do those kinds of stuff. And I think the most powerful thing about like blueprints and scripts, the combination of it would probably be the shareability in the end. Once the UI is there, that I could share a script with you using like a link that can be imported, right? Instead of like pieces of YAML that needs to be customized. So I think that there is something that maybe relies on power. But in the end, I hope actually blueprints will pop up for a lot of more stuff. And I think this is just like a small step up to it.
I really that is also a benefit for all video makers because they can link all the blueprints on the bottom of a video, and they look the video and just copy paste the link from a blueprint into your Home Assistant and use it like on a video.
True.
Absolutely. So cool.
Yeah. No, I think blueprints for template entities is going to be awesome.
REST.
For REST, command line. Like there's a bunch of stuff that could really benefit from. I mean, you're almost making your own integrations then, right? But then we first standardize in a blueprint, and then we can promote that to become an integration with like some extra polishing around it. Yeah.
Cool. Absolutely.
Here's I see this comment from Bruce Wood. I want the tracer to trace scripts.
It does actually.
Yeah, so we do that. We just we haven't built the UI yet.
Yeah.
Oopsie daisy.
So most of like what most people don't realize, but automations, the action part of an automation is a script. It is actually just a script. It's the same thing. So like we build tracing to automations, right? So that means we build tracing to scripts. But yeah, it's not exposed at this point. Like there's no UI indeed.
Yeah. But it was weird. Somehow it was already time for the release, and then all of a sudden we didn't do it. So, yeah.
I mean, a month is also fast over.
It used to be 2 weeks.
Yes, I'm not sure how we even managed to do that at this point.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I really don't get that. How
it was horrible. Beta next week release.
No.
Next beta release.
Before we had even like the release was just a dev cut.
Right. That's true, yeah.
So another thing that I want to highlight from this release still is we have now like little template functions for min and max in Jinja. So if you have like, I don't know, a couple of numbers or sensors and you want the highest, like the one with max temperature or something, you can now easily get that. I think that is cool. Little addition I did because I was like, why don't we have that actually? So I added that. I don't know. I think it's useful.
That's awesome.
And other than that, if you have, I think Pascal has one. If you have one of these,
Yeah.
The Sonos Moves. These have the Sonos Move has like a battery, and there's now a little one as well, I think.
Yeah, the Roam.
Sonos Roam. Yeah.
That's my wish list.
That's your wish list. Send me one too. No, but these things have battery, and with summer coming, I take this one outside, and that's really nice. But now your Home Assistant can see the battery state on it and the charging state.
Cool.
That's really cool. I really love that addition, this release.
And so you can make automation. If the battery is on 5%, send a voice message.
Yeah, it can tell you now, thanks to that, the device itself can tell you it's now running low on battery. It cannot do that, but it will now. I can now make an automation that it will send a text-to-speech to itself.
Wow. I use a DeWalt battery pack with a breakout to a voltage step down to a Chromecast when I go outside. And I just take this whole 6 amp hour battery to the Chromecast. It is an unbelievable mess. I should just do that. That makes more sense.
Have you Ben? Have you seen the OtterCast? It's this open source hardware. These people made a open source Chromecast audio clone, and it runs like Linux with like Pulse Audio targets. So they so you can make it even like more, I don't know, flexible.
Yeah,
I think they're
so interesting.
Yeah, they're working on a new revision. It should be out this week or last week, whatever. But yeah, I've been keeping an eye on it because I definitely want one because, Chromecast audio is cool, but it would be cooler if we could even do other cool stuff with it.
Right. Yeah. See, I'm definitely behind on a lot of that stuff because I feel like for me the central question is always like, how do I do a broadcast correctly for Home Assistant? Because there's always things you wanted to say.
I know.
So it's like you have the Alexa custom integration that does it, and then you also have this like very old integration with the Google Assistant web server that somehow is still pushing over the local network that broadcasts, and it works great. It's like it's very old, and I don't think anything's happened with it. But do you kind of wonder like what's going to be the best way forward with things like broadcasting and stuff?
Well, so OtterCast runs Pulse Audio, and we run Pulse Audio on Home Assistant. So you could technically have Home Assistant send the audio to those nodes in your house.
Gotcha.
So yeah, that would be really cool. Technically. Yeah. Well, we're gonna our Pulse Audio, we're gonna like improve it a bit more. I've been so 1.5 years ago we launched Ada, right, together with Stanford, with Almond, and Ada was the all-in-one voice assistant that did like the text-to-speech, the speech-to-text, and like could talk to you. And Almond was a Stanford project to actually do the processing of the text and executing the command. So Almond has gotten a grant from the Sloan Foundation, and they hired some developers, and they actually have the next generation of Almond is coming, and they already have a alpha version of the Home Assistant add-on that does everything that Ada does, but they're not integrating it more tightly with Almond. And it's going to be really, really cool. So I've already been playing it with my device here at home. I mean, it still needs definitely improvements, and it's still only English. But yeah, I mean, there's just 2 people working on it full time now, and they're making sure the goal is to get it user friendly. So I'll drop a video tomorrow of just I have some USB speakerphones connected to my Home Assistant Blue. Just turning on some lights, but yeah, it's getting cool, and it's gonna get easier and easier to use, right? Because the goal would be you pair a Bluetooth speaker microphone to your Home Assistant device, or you connect a USB speakerphone or USB microphone to your Home Assistant device, and it should just be a voice assistant. Done, right? Like that's the goal. So
yeah.
Anyway. That's
maybe you can hook up with ESPHome there and make a little ESPHome microphone setup for that.
There was, you make a joke, but there was a project at some point that would just route all the audio, I think, over MQTT, and then the voice processing will be done on the Home Assistant side, and then like routing it back to an ESP device to also play.
Yeah.
I think just having something a little bit more powerful would be better to do more. You want to do more things on the edge, right? You don't want to like constantly stream audio of every room into Home Assistant.
Right.
That'd be pretty intense. But,
True.
Yeah. No, yeah, there's going to be some exciting stuff there too. I think in the next coming months, I have now like a bi-weekly meeting with the Almond people to kind of like keep track of it and make sure it gets better. And so I definitely expect in the next few months to get something more out there, some more previews for people.
Yeah. So cool.
Right. All right.
I really wonder. I'm bet there are a lot of people watching right now that have a question for Ben. I would say this is the moment. Take it. Drop it.
All right.
Or Jesse, of course. Jesse's also a guest. Like, well, he's probably going on to be more regular here. I hope.
Hopefully. We'll see.
No.
I feel like I can't say coming soon anymore. That's been revoked, so I don't know what to say at this point. Other than I hope so.
Sadly agree, though, but
I'm doing my best. No,
I hope.
Yeah.
It's I feel like what I absolutely have to do is there's like a third version of my website which has been sitting in like mothballs on my computer that I need to put up because that's a website that I'll actually maintain, and then with that I need to like get to more community interaction and get to like understanding what people want to see, because at this point I kind of waver, like where's my first step? Somebody needs to tell me, because it's like seems like, hey, this is Home Assistant, let's start from scratch. Seems like it's kind of done at this point. I don't know if people need that, but
yeah,
I don't know.
You
if
can do it. You can do it in a minute.
Hardware.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Here's Home Assistant. Plug it in. Hit go. Yeah. So I don't know. I feel like I need some people to tell me what they want to see. So I got to get after that.
I think you still have to have, like somebody's saying that in the chat right now, Donna says it, and like you still have to maintain a tagline like, yo, Ben here. Yeah, that.
Oh yeah.
Try it, please.
Yo, Ben here. Of course. Yeah. Absolutely. That'll start.
That was like a signature opening. Somehow. So simple. So
it's funny. It's not ever something you think about like that. I don't know where necessarily broad automation came from. The home automation for everyone. That tag, I'd never really thought of those. Just kind of was there, and it is what it is, man. It's wild that it stuck at all to me, but here I sit.
Well, I mean, we're all talking about an app called Home Assistant, right? So
it's true. It's true. It's just fortuitous timing that I was like getting into that. You guys were launching, and it was just kind of like, I feel like you guys dragged me up. I definitely didn't do much for you guys, but
that's not true.
I appreciate the opportunity to work with you guys on this. It's very exciting to me.
I know, but I think you did a lot in the beginning, because there was just not many YouTubers that were like doing videos, right? Like, and I think it's also, I mean, there's different quality, different levels of engagement that YouTubers get, and you just get a lot of engagement. Yeah. Right? Yeah. And I don't know what your magic is, but like maybe it's always the nice light bulbs in the background or the purple lights, or
I just hope it's not being hard to get, man. That's my concern.
The lightning is perfect.
Yeah, man.
Can I drop in a question that I see? Because
of course, yes, please ask away. Sorry, I'm not doing well.
What is the coolest home automation project you've done the last 2 years? Like,
that's a
we knew what you were doing before that, right? But
right, yeah. Let's see. So, the coolest project. Let me start with I'll tell you the one that's been like maybe the most helpful or useful. Thanks to ESPHome, all of the like custom stuff I was building has gone on. Obviously there's the things that everybody would think of, like blinds and relays and all of that stuff. The one that I think is the most like, wow, this is so great, is I have sensors on my refrigerator that tell me when the door is open, and the contact switches I got are extremely sensitive. I mean, down to like the millimeter. So even if like the door is shut, it doesn't close all the way. That's linked into an LED strip that's on top of the refrigerator, so the light turns on when the door is open, so you always know when your door is open. And honestly, I think that saved a refrigerator for me, because I just have a habit of like, I don't know if that's cool. It's certainly very useful. It's the first thing when my mom came over, she's like, I gotta have that. It's like, I need that. That's like, I don't care about anything else, your light switches that turn off your TV, who cares? But I need that thing that tells me when the freezer's left open. And so that's certainly been one. I've had a lot of things that were like failures that I spent so much time on it that I loved. I had a Wi-Fi connected candle that turned itself on and off. That would not be recommended to people, but that was very fun.
Like a real flame.
Yeah, like a real flame candle. The worst idea I've ever had. That's
of course,
this horrible prototype I have that has these like copper tubes and it has an air pump on the bottom that blows out the candle. I had this like this crown of like it would arc, so it had a high voltage generator on it. It would arc across the candle and light it, and obviously it's very cool. Definitely cool. Also extremely dangerous. Would not recommend. I have a video of it. I don't think I'll ever. Maybe I want to revisit it. That's like my dream project to master that safely. There's a lot to consider with the Wi-Fi connected candle.
I have electric candles.
Yeah.
Say that again. You have electric candles? Is that what you said? I didn't hear you.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I have electric candles. Like they just turn on automatically at 6. They automatically shut down at midnight. And they look pretty real. No, there's no fire.
Oh, it's not fire. It's not fun, Paula. Come on, man. No, that's cool. That's certainly a smart way to do it.
What cool he told about those candles. So what cool is about those candles is the fact that they just, after you turn them on, they will just turn on for 6 hours, I believe you said.
Yeah.
And then turn off for 18 hours. So it's like the most dumbest but useful automation you can think of, because if you turn them on, then they will turn off 6 hours later, but the next day they will turn on again at that time. So it's actually pretty darn simple.
I was so impressed with that automation. I really appreciate those small things. Like we always think, when we think of home automation, like, oh, something needs to be like, some voice has to come out of the speakers, or I need to get notifications, but like, like Ben was saying, just some LED strip on his fridge is already enough to give that feedback right where you need it, right? Because you don't need a notification on your phone if you're at work that your fridge is open. That would be horrible, right?
Right.
But if you're in the kitchen, you can see the fridge is open. Boom, you will act on it. Yep. Right? And of course, you can maybe make an escalation, right? Like, hey, the fridge is open after 30 minutes. Then all the lights start flashing blue or whatever. But generally, the person that is in the kitchen opening and closing doors will see it.
True.
Now, of course, if they're kids, they might not care, but that's a different story.
You can also tie it to an alarm, so when your morning alarm goes off, it doesn't turn off until you go open your refrigerator. And it's one of the things I do. It works great.
That's a good idea.
Great way to get you out of bed, man. It's great.
I'm not sure how
it's too easy to unplug your phone or something,
I think I would get into a fight real quick if I tried to pull up that stuff.
We could link it to putting your toilet seat up.
Hey man, it's all fun and games till it breaks when you're not home. Man, when that happens, it's a mess. You get the call, it's like the home's going crazy. Figure it out, and you're like, okay. Panic. I always have to build like a hard off on any of the things that I build in Home Assistant, just because if it for whatever reason the sensor breaks or something, it's like gotta turn it off quick.
Yeah.
She got used to it. In my case, sometimes it takes 2-3 days before I hear about something that broke, and after 2-3 days, it's like maybe I should say something. it's just like, I don't know. It's a mess. It is.
Yeah. But hey Ben, what are the lights behind you when they flash?
It's a motion sensor in my hallway. So my dog just walked in here. When she comes through the door, or in this case the door's open, but a lot of the times I'm in here and the door is shut, and she'll just stand out there, so she doesn't have to whine. It's just a magic door to her. She stands there and then it opens. So,
nice.
Of course, I open it. That's again, door opening and closing, something that's been on my fantasy list for a while, but it has been banned in this house, unfortunately. One day, Star Trek.
Why don't you make a big hole for the dog to walk through?
That'd be a pretty big hole. This is her, right?
Just remove the door, right?
That is around 20 or 30 times bigger than my dog.
Yeah, I don't know. I think my dog is normal. Yours is small. That's my feeling on it.
Maybe.
Yeah. That's one question I want to answer. Have you ever thought of linking a bidet to Home Assistant? I have, actually. That's a great question. I think part of my video that I want to make is, maybe it's just me trying to be Dr. Z, but there's something about automating a toilet that would be hilarious to me and just be really fun. So in my brainstorming of things to do, a bidet was one of the ideas I had. It's maybe it's if you had some sort of water valve on it, so you don't have to do some barbaric reach down and turn a valve thing, because nobody wants to do that. So you put some sort of like water solenoid valve on it and a capacitive thing, so when you pick it up, it turns on. I think the more interesting thing would be like a way to weigh yourself in the morning. So when you sit down on the toilet, there's a load scale on it, and then you don't have to stand up on the scale. You know what I'm saying? There'd be some really interesting biometric data there to collect with a scale and a toilet.
Or use the wake-up alarm to turn off after you are on the toilet.
Right? There's things you can do, like if you put a microphone on it and somebody's making loud sounds, it just turns the bathroom fan on. Just like common decency things like that. I think there's potential there, but yeah, I have thought a lot about toilet automations. I don't know why. State of my mind, I guess.
God.
Yeah.
Or my Dyson have an air quality checker.
Oh man, yes. I bought a bunch of those different organic gas sensors from eBay for like $18. It is like methane. It says it does. It's not. But the reason I did it is because I wanted to detect if I put it in the nursery, if I could see when my baby needs a new diaper. I did not have success. It did not work, unfortunately.
But poop sniffer. You try to
exactly. It's a great thing. You put it in there. Maybe if it's sensitive enough. Unfortunately, air quality is pretty not great, so changes environmentally. Big picture changes it, but there is maybe when he's bigger. We'll see.
Air quality sensors are so expensive. Like I was looking at carbon dioxide and stuff. It's like $30 or something at AliExpress, and it's like, whoa.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, it's funny. I have a lot of the little cheap particle counters that do I have one in my kitchen on the refrigerator to detect when I'm burning stuff. Like in the kitchen, I can see oh, the house is really smoky. Turn the air conditioner on, it drops. But yeah, that's aside from a particle sensor, they are especially any of the gases. It's so expensive. That stuff. And even the particle counters. I mean, having worked with real ones at work for environmental monitoring and clean rooms, the one in my house is definitely not legit. But it can tell you when you burn something, so that's cool.
Yeah.
Or when you blow dust off the top of your refrigerator, as is often the case. Don't walk too fast when you go in front of it. Yeah.
Oh my God, no spoilers. Oh, that's something else. Never mind.
Any other questions?
No, but do you have any questions, Ben?
Oof. Let's see. I mean, I certainly have questions about what you guys want the future of Home Assistant to be. I mean, now that Nabucco is there and you guys are you're a real company, in my opinion, you're the world leaders in home automation. You have, Home Assistant Blue now. I mean, I think you guys have the capacity to not only continue on the software side, which please do, because that's why people love Home Assistant, but I think you guys also have opportunities to start making a kind of a real platform technology to start bringing in people that are not enthusiasts. I work with my parents, for example, and I installed 110 Z-Wave nodes in their house, which was horrible. It's absolutely, I mean, it's fine. I'm happy to help them, but I always think about okay, if this is, I know the enthusiast community. How do we start appealing to, people like my parents and other people who want the HomeKit experience, but not the HomeKit Premium?
Yeah.
Do you guys have a thought for how you start tackling and appealing to the larger audience?
Well, I think I'll take this one. I mean, we're going there, right? I think it has been inevitable. The way I see it is that we make the best software, but if nobody can install it, then it's not accessible enough, right? And our accessibility work to make it easy to use Home Assistant, but then the first step is download Etcher and flash an image to an SD card, and most people don't even know those words, right? And we can do better there. And so we did the Home Assistant Blue. I mean, the distribution pipeline is a mess right now with electric components and stuff, and so we wanted to make more blues, and so we're definitely gonna there's more coming there, I think, and we're also you see we're investing in ESPHome, because ESPHome, I think it's not just a hub, it's everything in your house, and how do we bring everything in? And I think making ESPHome part of that, I don't want to say, journey, I don't know, that's a stupid word, but to be part of our ecosystem. And I think, what is very important is that, we're right now, like, I think we have a real shot in changing the way home automation works, like, for everybody, by focusing so much on privacy and local control that other companies will have to follow us. And I think that with the, making sure that our software is accessible and other companies will adopt it, and I hope we get more local API in the homes. And I truly hope that ESPHome, and we can make it as easy as possible that more people build ESPHome based devices, because if somebody makes a cheap ESPHome based device, well, that benefits every Home Assistant user out there, for example, right? And like, it actually doesn't have to be us building the ESPHome devices. It could be, anyone. Like, I know that, like, Adorno is building the tag reader, Marcel's building like an ESPHome P1 reader, the ESPHome doorbell. Like, there's all these projects kind of coming about, and we're gonna work on making it easier. And I think, getting to, like, for example, our parents to get to that super easy level, it is very difficult, because also a lot of times you just need an expert, an electrician to come, like, swapping out every light bulb, light socket. Like, that's not something you can just ask from a random person. I do hope, though, that we get to a world where the light switches are just compatible out of the box, right? It's kind of silly that, like, electricity is standardized. Why wouldn't there be, like, some standard? And chip was going to be such a standard, and, well, who knows if it's real or if it's coming or if it's going to be vaporware. We don't know. I'm always, like, impressed with, for example, a lot of houses in the United States, they have these hardwired security systems, which, like, the door open, window open door. Well, the beauty is that those sensors are just standardized sensors, and they are hardwired, right? So actually, you can like connect it, for example, or ESPHome, and actually pull that data into Home Assistant, and all of a sudden then it becomes a standard feature of the home. I think right now we're fighting technology, right? Like, a home you build today is not compatible with the home we need in 5 years or 10 years. And I don't know. I think for us, like, we cannot beat or change the world on our own. And I think that making sure that our technology is easily available and accessible, and having other companies able to use and adopt that, and capture value, and also, like, make some money, and also then invest again in the ecosystem, I think we can go somewhere. But so, a lot of rambling, but we'll go that way, I think.
No, there's a sense of truth in there, right? Like, if I think back and at one of the first videos I ever watched about Home Assistant, which was by Ben, that was one that he actually installed, like, Raspbian, and then, like, no, it was the all-in-one installer. So he actually like pulled over, like, scripts and then run to install Home Assistant. Like, even though you can say, like, flashing with Azure is like a pain, but look back then, right?
Sure.
That's where we came from. And shipping the blue is kind of like where it comes to. That's then the next step, which is also forward. Like, look at our UI. Like, you don't have to write YAML anymore. And I think that for ESPHome, there's a similar thing going on. Like, if it's more accessible, like, if people can use it more easily, then some other people will create devices. Look at Shelly, that already makes, like, it possible to put something else in it. And we'll have to wait and see until somebody steps up and actually, like, start shipping devices that are ESPHome based, and maybe you have a manufacturer supporting it, right? So
that would be awesome,
right? So I think there's a lot of room for, I don't know, beginners to step in, and we have to continuously work on, making it easier, which was like the slogan like 2 years ago or something. But still, I think that is an important value.
Yeah. The company that just, it always kills me is Wise, because Wise makes hardware that works pretty well, and then the integration side is always just like, it's so close, but it's just not there. And
well, the truth is, Wise just white labels anything Xiaomi makes, right? So exactly. Xiaomi actually makes great products, like hardware-wise, and it's then, but of course, if you buy a Xiaomi product, it has generally a Chinese app with it, right? Like, most of the stuff is only released in China, and then Wise kind of translates in English, and then, I mean, the prices they charge is like, there's not much markup on there. I don't know.
How did they do it?
you can make a Home Assistant rebranded Xiaomi product and sell that.
Sure.
I think you would have a pretty big opportunity, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that like if you get just the light switches or whatever, have ESPHome on it, you're already like. But we first need a good onboarding with Bluetooth, right? Because right now, ESPHome, you need to flash it with your Wi-Fi credentials.
True.
So, we're waiting for Jesse. He's our key to unlocking our next big step. No pressure.
Yeah. No pressure at all.
Actually, the Bluetooth provisioning, the Wi-Fi credentials, sending them over Bluetooth Low Energy, we actually already, WLAT is interested in adding it as well, right? So there will be more open source projects that are going to adapt this standard. So it will be so awesome because it doesn't really matter what firmware you're going to put on your ESP, you will just be able to onboard it with the same tools. Either it's the Home Assistant app or a website, or the WLAT app can onboard ESPHome devices. Like all that stuff should be able to be standardized.
I think if I look back to the last 3 years, it's like a rocket. So we start slowly and now we get full speed. So I think in a year it will be so much change and so much will be easier. And I'm really excited to see where we are in a year.
We don't have to forget, we're here because of our advanced users, right? So those people are actually usually the ones that help us with moving forward and new ideas, and often become contributors to the project as well. And then we move forward again. So it's a balance there as well for us, I think. But that's
definitely, yeah. But I mean, I think that in the end, everybody benefits, right? Because, for example, we've been, with Blueprints, it's a great feature for advanced users to repackage the automations and only write it once and use it all across their house, but also not just their house, but also everybody else's house can benefit from it. And then we're adding more features to make Blueprints more powerful, or ESPHome. I mean, ESPHome obviously is still very advanced user right now because you have to build it yourself, right? You need to, but if we start being able to buy ESPHome devices, that's going to be awesome. Then everybody can benefit again.
Awesome. Yeah, and you guys, you've done super well in terms of minimizing breaking changes, and throughout the 4 or 5 years I've been playing with Home Assistant, the number of things that actually you pushed it and it just caused a devastating problem for me, it's very minimal. A couple maybe, but in 4 or 5 years, and every time it's a breaking change that makes complete sense. So hats off to you guys for having a plan and a trajectory for what you're doing.
Thank you.
That's actually one of the things that is a result of transferring to the UI, which most people don't realize. That is just because of the UI and just because of Home Assistant can control those things. We can actually migrate stuff for you without being breaking, and that's a cool feature.
Good.
That's really good.
All right, should we wrap it up? 2.5 hours.
Probably.
Yeah, I think so. It's still late.
What's the time, Jesse? Yeah.
What was that?
What's the time?
9:30 in the morning.
Thursday, by the way. He's in the future. Yes.
Wow.
So, Jesse, you really did the ESPHome project release, right? Also, you're going on monthly release cycle now, right?
Well, fingers crossed.
So, what's the biggest feature in 1.17, I believe, that everybody should check out? Right.
I don't know. The feature I was most looking forward to that did make it in was the addressable light display. I think that's going to be something that will help out a lot of people. I've seen some videos from one person that I was talking to on Discord that helped test it out. And yeah, it's amazing what you can do with those displays. They're so big.
Cool.
Yeah.
So for the ESPHome release cycle, we're right now, because this was the first one, this beta of 17 was out for way too long. It got released in the same week as Home Assistant, but of course we're going to try to space this out because it's just too much happening. So I think the plan is going to be that in 2 weeks, 18 will drop, and from then on it will be monthly. So that way, that like every 2 weeks there will be presents.
That's nice. just like the old days.
Exactly. But now distributed across our projects.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay. Well, everybody, thank you for watching the Home Assistant Release Party 2021.5. Today joined by Frank. I had to like see how I'm mirroring. Okay. Ben from Bra Automation. Pascal from the Home Assistant core team. Jesse, ESPHome core team. Don't forget, if you're on YouTube, click that bell, subscribe. If you're on Twitter, hit that like button, I guess, and follow us. If you're on Facebook, like and subscribe. Like.
Try. Whatever. Click those buttons.
Yes. If you want to support the work that we do, sign up for Home Assistant Cloud by Nabokasa. That pays our bills and allows us to build and distribute Home Assistant.
We forgot one thing about talking about Home Assistant Cloud. If you're using Home Assistant Cloud, you have access to the text-to-speech engine that is available for us, and that has now like a way higher sound quality this release. So
yes,
it sounds really nice now. Even like the intonation was really good, but now it sounds really good.
But you need to clear the cache because otherwise it plays from the cache and not take it.
But it sounds really cool.
Okay, do I have to restart my end reel now, or what are we doing?
No, it's just okay. Thanks, bye.
Thank you for having me on. It's great to see you guys.
Bye.
I'll see you guys soon.
Cheers.